Marvel. The devastation of natural disasters begins. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 151, Snap Your Fingers Again. Tang Feng, who had just appeared, saw that the fighter plane was about to take off, and immediately blew up a small ball of disaster and flew towards the tail of the fighter plane. With a bang, the tail of the fighter plane exploded, and just as it was about to ascend into the sky, it was about to make a forced landing. Pierce clutched his bleeding head, opened the rudder door, staggered out of the fighter plane, and saw Tang Feng walking towards him at a glance. As he walked, Tang Feng said playfully, "Do you want to run in front of me? Even if you run to the other side of the planet first, I can catch you immediately. Do you dare to kill me? You Hydra are very daring seniors who don't know whether to live or die." Tang Feng's face changed as soon as he said it. He walked in front of Pierce, kicked him, fell to the ground in pain, and vomited blood. "I don't know what you are talking about. Is there some misunderstanding?" Pierce held back the pain, grabbed his tail fin, pretended not to understand, and said innocently, "Hey, you still pretend that you don't know when you're about to die. Do you think that even if you don't admit it, I won't kill you?" Tang Feng stepped on Pierce's body and increased his strength bit by bit. The crisp sound of Onim's fracture rang out finally, making him even more painful and finding it difficult to breathe. I don't know where you got the information from. I'm not a Hydra spy. I've always been the former director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Pierce said harshly. "Old man, no matter how much you deny it, I think you're a Hydra spy. If you feel wronged, let fate decide." Tang Feng finished speaking with a smile and let go of his feet, giving Pierce a chance to breathe. "What does it mean?" Pierce was taken aback and asked in confusion. "Literally, wait a minute. I will release a natural disaster force that can reverse reality. It will follow my wishes and be able to change reality. For example, when I was using it, I was thinking of killing all the Hydra members, then I can do it." 35 You should have known what happened at the Trident headquarters building before. I can accurately kill your spies without knowing who is Hydra and who is the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, that is, using this kind of natural disaster force. So if I want to destroy Hydra, I don't need any intelligence at all, and I don't need to waste time to find their secret base. Just use this natural disaster power to cover the entire planet and just sweep it clean. It's as simple and easy as cleaning up trash and squashing ants. Tang Feng's joyful words made Pierce feel a chill in his heart. His heart tightened, his body shuddered, he was terrified. He shook his head desperately in disbelief and said, "No, no. It's impossible. How can you have such terrifying power? It's the power of a god. You're just a mere mutant. You can't have it." In this situation, Pierce didn't care about hiding his identity. If Tang Feng didn't lie, he would also be killed when the natural disaster force was launched. Moreover, as a person of Hydra, he has been loyal to Hydra all his life. Although he has the ambition to rise, he also wants Hydra to have better development. Everyone has ambition, which doesn't mean betrayal. He couldn't calm down when he thought that Hydra, which he had dedicated his life to, would be completely destroyed because of Tang Feng's natural disaster power. "Huh? Who said that I'm a pure mutant? Shouldn't I be a god on this planet in your eyes?" "A lot of people think this way, and I thought everyone thought the same." Tang Feng pretended to be surprised, and what he said arrogantly was not only for Pierce, but also for Carol and others who came in a hurry. "Okay. I don't want to talk any more nonsense. It's time for you and Hydra to set off, and if you can go to the underworld together, you will no longer be alone. By the way, when I use the natural disaster power, you'd better not interfere with me. The natural disaster power I use is very dangerous, and if you don't pay attention, it can wipe out all human beings, so you'd better watch obediently, otherwise, the consequences will be at your own risk." Tang Feng solemnly warned Carol and the others. The catastrophe broke out, and with a deep cry, his mind quickly entered a state of tranquility, triggering a natural disaster and an orderly collapse. The next moment, invisible fluctuations came out. From it, They quickly spread out and quickly enveloped the entire planet, and the whole process took less than half a minute. This is the first time he has used the power of the collapse of order with all his strength, and found that God's perspective has changed, and the perspective of overlooking is no longer inside the planet, but outside the planet. Just like a giant, looking down on a planet with only a file-sized crystal ball, you can crush the planet with just a light squeeze with your hands. Damn, I can't be distracted, I can't think of other things. Tang Feng was shocked and stopped thinking about the distraction in time. Fortunately, he stepped back from the precipice at a critical moment, otherwise the planet would have been annihilated. At the moment before, Captain Marvel Carol felt a chill in her heart, and the hairs on her body exploded, as if a crisis that would annihilate the world was coming. Fortunately, nothing happened in the end, as if it was an illusion. Even so, he still looked at Tang Feng in disbelief and could guess that Tang Feng was the one responsible. He solemnly said to Tony and the others, "No matter what Tang Feng wants now, don't disturb him for the time being, otherwise, there will really be serious consequences." As he said, "If I guess correctly, the power of natural disaster he is using now is very dangerous, and even he doesn't understand the power of perfect control of natural disaster." He thought for a while and added another sentence. Tony and the others had solemn expressions. With Tang Feng's warning and Carol's warning from 937, they had to suppress all thoughts and wait patiently. Nick Fury also gave up his plan. He also wanted to stop Tang Feng and interrogate Pierce. Whether it was a personal question or about Hydra, he had too many doubts and wanted to ask Pierce. They didn't want to interfere with Tang Feng anymore. Pierce panicked that what Tang Feng said would really come out. He struggled to stand up and wanted to interfere with Tang Feng. As a result, the three girls stared at him, and Kenyi pointed out that he couldn't move due to the pressure of psychokinesis. It didn't take long for everyone to wait. Tang Feng quickly snapped his fingers and made a crisp sound, then opened his eyes, restrained the power of the natural disaster, exhaled lightly, and completed the killing operation. "Well, since then, on this planet, your Hydra has completely disappeared." Tang Feng finished speaking in a low voice, waved his hand, a portal formed beside him, and he was about to leave with the three girls. Behind him, Pierce's body quickly disappeared. This strange situation frightened Tony, Captain, Carol and others. Only Nick Fury, Hill, and Phil Coulson were silent when they saw him. "No, no, Hydra will not perish, a head will perish, it will," Pierce shouted in despair, and before he finished speaking, he had completely disappeared from the world without a trace. Chapter 152. The original planet was almost erased. At the same time Pierce disappeared, on a global scale, hiding all over the world, disguised as different identities, whether they were high-ranking officials or rich people, or low-level people, ordinary people, all members of Hydra, including Anim, who has become an intelligent life. Zola, without any resistance, turned into ashes one by one. This strange phenomenon was also witnessed by many people, causing screams on the spot, causing an outburst of confusion. Similarly, there is also a superhero who will be whitewashed in the future and killed by Tang Feng. He is Winter Soldier and Bucky Barnes. Winter Soldier is a soldier during World War II and the captain is a good friend. Due to an operation against Hydra, he accidentally fell off a cliff from a train and lost contact since then, and his life and death are unknown. In fact, he was secretly rescued by Hydra, injected with an imperfect serum, transformed into a super soldier, and brainwashed to act according to orders. For so many years, apart from obeying orders and dispatching tasks, the rest of the time was frozen in sleep. He secretly killed many opponents for Hydra, and even Iron Man's parents were killed by him. It was also because of him that the relationship between Tony and the captain became even more tense and they were almost enemies. Now, because Tang Feng used the power of the collapse of the natural disaster order, he drove Hydra out of the nest and killed him. Who told him that he now belongs to the Hydra camp? Tang Feng didn't care about this. Anyway, the superhero who died in his hands was not only Winter Soldier, but also a Blade Warrior. Because of his vampire blood, he died in the dark. If Tang Feng hadn't thought that Winter Soldier killed him by accident, he would never have thought of it until now. It turned out that when he killed the vampires, He also killed the Blade Warrior by mistake. Poor Blade Warrior. Tang Feng finally remembered it. Wait, Tang Feng. Captain Marvel Carol saw that Tang Feng was about to enter the portal and hurriedly shouted, "What's wrong with calling me? You don't want to let me go and want to fight again?" Tang Feng paused, looked at her, frowned, and said with a sneer, "No, you misunderstood. I have something important to tell you about the crisis of the entire planet." Carol hurriedly waved her hand. She had seen Tang Feng anyway and only said the annihilation of the Zerg. Crisis for the entire planet? Joke. For you guys. I don't think there is any crisis that he can't handle. Tang Feng smiled. He realized the power that can easily wipe out the planet. It was when his arrogance was so powerful that he didn't believe there was any crisis that could be difficult for him. You are wrong, Tang Feng. Although you are strong, you are still no match for some true gods. 35 At this moment, without waiting for Carol to explain, a voice that attracted everyone's attention was heard. A bald man in mage robes, who appeared behind everyone at some point, was the supreme sorcerer, the Elder. "Elder, why are you here?" Tang Feng couldn't help but ask in surprise. "Why did I come? Don't you know? I've already said that your power is too dangerous. Use the power of natural disasters as little as possible. If time is chaotic and order collapses, the power of natural disasters must be used with caution. When I taught you, you promised me clearly, so why did you forget it as soon as you left?" In just a few months, you not only used the power of natural disasters frequently, but also used the power of dangerous temporal chaos and order collapse continuously. If this continues, I'm really afraid that you will destroy the planet again. Although Ancient S tone 1 was flat, anyone could hear the meaning of blame. Carol and the others were shocked. "Who is this? You dare to preach to Tang Feng like this? Are you not afraid of death?" The result left them all with wide eyes, very shocked. Tang Feng only touched his nose in embarrassment, but did not fight back. Linger, Twinkle, Keen and the three girls looked at each other and looked at Ancient One curiously. As Tang Feng's woman, she definitely knew where Tang Feng was and who he had met during the half year that Tang Feng disappeared. Cough cough. "I don't want to use the power of natural disasters frequently, but you also know that the power of natural disasters is my strongest means of fighting the enemy. Facing some powerful opponents, I can't win if I don't use it. So, I had to use it. However, I have always used the power of natural disasters cautiously and have not caused any destructive damage." "What you just said has destroyed the planet again, which is too exaggerated." Tang Feng felt helpless and said innocently, "I haven't harmed you. You almost destroyed the planet just now. If I hadn't used the power of the Eye of Agamotto to stop the planet's time for a moment, the place where I'm talking to you now would be in the universe." The elder calmly said something that surprised everyone. "Are you sure?" Tang Feng was stunned and asked cautiously, "What do you say?" The elder looked at him with calm and unwavering eyes. Tang Feng was silent, remembering that because of the full use of the power of the natural disaster. The reason for the change in God's perspective was that his thoughts at that time were scattered for a moment. "I originally thought that the dangerous thoughts were stopped in time. But now that I think about it, I am full of mistakes and deceiving myself. The thoughts are scattered, and I have thought about it. Even if I stop thinking about it in time, it has happened after all, and I have no regrets." It should be that the elder made a secret move to prevent the planet's crisis from being annihilated. With the power of the elder, coupled with the power of the time gem, Eye of Agamotto, the elder made a secret move to prevent the planet from being annihilated. Agamotto. It is enough to counter Tang Feng's power to unleash the collapse of order. Due to Tang Feng's focus on erasing Hydra, coupled with the hidden characteristics of time, he did not realize that Ancient One had taken action. Thinking back now, he thought of a feeling that was not quite right when the order of use collapsed. Then, he almost annihilated the planet. Linger and other daughters, Magneto and others, Atlantis that he established, Carol and other superheroes, everything on the planet was almost destroyed by his hands. Knew how, after thinking about it, I was afraid that everything I knew was almost gone. The people beside him were confused. But they understood one thing. Seeing Tang Feng's fearful appearance, they also confirmed that Ancient One's words were true. One was true, not a lie. Vertical bar. This kind of thing is too absurd. I didn't feel anything just now, and Tang Feng almost wiped me out along with the planet. Tony slapped his forehead and even chose to temporarily forget the injury on his body. He seemed reluctant to accept reality and was deeply affected. The captain, Dr. Banner and others also have a worldview collapse mentality. What's wrong? The planet is so easily destroyed? They don't even know how it was destroyed. Linger, Twinkle, and Kin's three daughters also stared at each other. They couldn't help but move closer to Tang Feng, for fear that he would suddenly disappear and never see him again. Tang Feng sensed the feelings of the three women and was very moved. He felt ashamed of them and made them feel scared. He was really not a good man for his job. Chapter 153 Frog Leap Battle. Basic exercise. It's useless to be afraid of what has already happened. Fortunately, it didn't happen after all, so this Ancient One mage stopped it in time. Captain Marvel Carol smiled wryly, looking at Ancient One, who has been in the universe for so many years, definitely knew about the existence of mages and had seen them before. She never thought that mages also existed in her hometown. Suddenly, she felt that her hometown also had many secrets. Thinking about it, she continued, going back to what I said just now, the planetary crisis I said is true. The next Zerg annihilation will invade our planet. There is a Zerg king behind them. He is a true god. Even with your strength, he will not be an opponent. So, this is a crisis that requires everyone to work together to overcome it. These words were sincerely said to Tang Feng. Then, Carol looked at Ancient One again and said, I didn't expect that my hometown still hid such a powerful mage like you. I am Captain Marvel Carol Danvers, and I sincerely invite you to come, join us, against the Obliteration Zerg. I won't join you. The elder shook his head without hesitation and refused. Why? You obviously have such a strong magic power. Are you so ruthless and blind to the crisis of planet destruction? Carol was stunned and disappointed, and said in a responsible tone, 3 months later, what is coming is just the annihilation of the Zerg team. The Zerg King has other things to do and will not come in person anytime soon. You and Tang Feng together are enough to deal with it. The Elder possesses the 937-time gem, is an expert in the wheel prophecy skill, said calmly, turned his head to look at Tang Feng and said, recently, the Dark Monarch Dormammu has rebelled again, and the Hell Demon King Mephisto is secretly doing things. I will not follow you when I have time. I hope you won't use the power of natural disasters indiscriminately and destroy the planet again, and I won't stop it in time. After saying these words, he simply opened the portal and left. Tang Feng frowned as he looked at the place where the Elder had disappeared and blinked. The Elder was temporarily out of time. It seemed that he couldn't be so rowdy, and no one else would wipe his ass. After thinking about it, he looked at Carol and said, find a place to sit down and tell me about the annihilation of the Zerg. Hearing that it is the annihilation of the insect race, the Insect King, even with his current 5th level power, doesn't dare to neglect it. Carol is right, the existence of the true God is indeed strong, and there is no certainty that he will win. However, just because you are not sure does not mean that you will definitely lose. If it is a weaker true God, if he goes all out to use all kinds of natural disaster powers, there is a chance to defeat the true God, although the probability is not great. The power of natural disasters is blessed by the power of destiny, and it is normal to be able to surpass the enemy. He used to be a 4th level mutant, borrowed the power of the Scourge, and still failed to kill the 5th level Dracula. Therefore, facing the powerful enemy of the true God, although there is no certainty that he can absolutely win, he will not despair. Like him, the Elder fought hard, but he actually had the power to fight against the true God. The Elder stole the power of the xeno-dimensional space belonging to the Dark Monarch Dormammu. Not only can he live forever, but he can also borrow the power of the Dark X-dimensional space at critical moments to enhance his strength. Coupled with the power of the Time Gem, he can also compete with the weaker true gods. For example, the Dark Monarch Dormammu also integrates the Dark Alien Dimension to possess the power of the true God. He is the weakest true God. If he leaves the Dark Alien Dimension, he will lose the power of the true God. Even with the power of a true God, the Elder cannot defeat the Elder. After leaving the Dark Alien Dimension, His power has dropped to level 5 and is no match for the Elder. This is why the Elder has suppressed him for so many years and has never been able to invade the planet. The Hell Demon King Mephisto also has weaknesses. When he leaves Hell, his power will drop to level 5. As time goes by, his power will weaken even further, so he is suppressed by the Elder and can only quietly develop his business. Tang Feng took the 3 daughters, followed Carol, and found a tea house, making tea and negotiating at the same time. As for Tony and the others, they all said goodbye and left one by one. In conjunction with the matter of Tang Feng, it was enough for Carol to show up, and they went home and licked their wounds. For Tony and the others, today was another unfortunate day, another hanging and beating. Nick Fury led Hill and Phil Coulson back to Trident headquarters with a bitter look on his face. Looking at the few agents who had gathered and survived, he was speechless. He had a kind of hard work, and once he returned to the sadness before liberation. Annihilation Zerg has a squadron of 100 million, plus Queen Blade. It has a 5th-tier power and a cosmic fleet. This kind of power. You are right. The impending annihilation of the Zerg is indeed a huge crisis. Although I think I can fight against it, I am not opposed to uniting against the enemy. Inside the tea house, Tang Feng and Carol sat opposite each other. Linger sat beside him, and on both sides of the table were the piano and Twinkle. Tang Feng's face was very solemn as he slowly said, with the participation of you and Mutant, as well as us, we will also unite the forces of various countries and all work together to deal with it. I believe we can deal with this crisis. What I am worried about is the Zerg Annihilation King. If the Zerg invades and let him come in person, it will be even more dangerous. Carol took the hot tea lightly with both hands and said worriedly, you don't have to worry too much. The Elder has already said that the Insect King will not come in a short time, so there is nothing wrong. Tang Feng said easily, as long as the Insect King does not come for a short time, there is nothing to worry about. Maybe when he comes, he will also become a true god. Moreover, the Insect King is not at the level of the 5 great gods of creation. Even if it is a true god, it is estimated that the power will not be too strong to make people despair. In Tony's words, that is the 6th for Tang Feng, there is nothing wrong with level 5 in the face of level 6. That mysterious female magician called Elder said that. Do you believe her so much? Have you already met her? Can you tell me about her? Carol looked at Tang Feng and asked curiously. Not only is she curious about the mysterious Elder who suddenly appeared, Tony and the others are also curious. Regrettably, the Elder did not satisfy her curiosity. He saved the planet from the crisis of extinction, appeared, finished talking to Tang Feng, and by the way said about the annihilation of the Zerg, and then left. The whole process is the mysterious style of the Hidden Master. Elder, she is the supreme sorcerer of Kamar-Taj, hidden in the Himalayas. Tang Feng nodded directly. The Elder's matter is a secret to ordinary people, and Carol is also qualified to know it, and began to introduce the Elder to her. What, the legendary supreme sorcerer and the Kamar-Taj wizard shrine? Was it in my hometown? Carol was taken aback and couldn't help but speak, interrupting Tang Feng's words and asking, yes, you don't know? The Elder Supreme Sorcerer and the Kamar-Taj Wizard's Shrine, aren't they in the universe? Tang Feng also asked doubtfully. There are rumors, but the rumors that have been circulating are only about the name of the Supreme Sorcerer, as well as the rumors of the Kamar-Taj Wizard's Holy Land, and the specific information. Few people know about it. Carol shook her head. Tang Feng raised his eyebrows thoughtfully. It should be that Ancient One deliberately hid specific information related to it in order to protect the planet and avoid being disturbed by various forces in the universe. Only a few true gods, or the masters of forces like Thanos, are qualified and have the means to know the accurate information of Ancient One. There is definitely a secret that Ancient One has always hidden deeply. Only the Dark Monarch Dormammu, Mephisto and Tang Feng who have fought against them know that it is about possessing the Time Gem. Chapter 154 Negotiation. After introducing some information about the Elder to Carol, Tang Feng didn't say much. After agreeing with her to fight against the Obliteration Zerg, he left with the 3 daughters. There was no hurry to return to Atlantis. Taking advantage of the scarce free time, Tang Feng and his 3 daughters spent 3 days playing in New City until Magneto, Charles and others couldn't stand it anymore and kept calling them to urge them. He went back to deal with national affairs, and then reluctantly returned. Wait, put these politicians aside in advance. Don't worry, I have a big thing to tell you now. Linger, go and gather everyone else. As soon as Tang Feng returned to Atlantis, he had a headache seeing Charles and Magneto waiting for him to return. There were large stacks of documents on the table. He waved his hands again and again, sat on the chair, and said solemnly. Charles and Magneto saw that Tang Feng didn't seem to be looking for a reason to be lazy, so they waited in confusion, in no hurry to let Tang Feng handle the political affairs. Before long, a group of mutants gathered again. As you all know, I personally took action 3 days ago and killed Hydra. Tang Feng looked at everyone and said slowly. They nodded one by one. All the people who belonged to Hydra turned into ashes and disappeared 3 days ago. This kind of strange thing shocked the world, and everyone wondered what the reason was. Only they knew that it was Tang Feng's hand, but they couldn't help but be shocked by Tang Feng's methods. These mutants all know the reason, so it is impossible to keep it a secret. 1 pass. 10 passes, 100 passes, 100,000. First, some big countries know it, and then spread it one after another, until all countries know that it is Tang Feng. However, those who are qualified to know it all have status, or connections. This kind of thing, most ordinary people are still kept in the dark. The world was shocked once again, and then calmed down again. Everyone was numb by Tang Feng. Anyway, the first shot was a big move. No matter how much damage was caused, as long as the planet was not destroyed, it was already gratifying. Even so, the fact that Hydra was completely annihilated gave them a stronger shock. One by one, they warned themselves in their hearts, don't try to calculate Tang Feng with the idea of a fluke, or the fate of Hydra will be their fate. Tang Feng's method of exterminating Hydra is more terrifying than a planet smaller than the sky, a great flood, and any other natural disaster forces. If faced with these natural disasters, even if they cause great damage to the planet, as long as their forces are hidden, they will not be extinguished. Now it is different. He can destroy Hydra, he can also destroy its power. Therefore, some people who originally had cautious thoughts and wanted to plot against Tang Feng abandoned those thoughts of death. After I destroyed Hydra, I learned from Captain Marvel Carol about a major event that endangered the entire planet. 3 months, no, 3 days have passed. It should be less than 3 months. There will be an Annihilation Zerg invasion of our planet. What Tang Feng continued to say, except for Linger and the 3 daughters, shocked everyone else. King, what do you mean by annihilation? Zerg, is it a race from the universe? Charles asked quietly. That's right. The Annihilation Zerg come from the universe. They are terrifying, and the number is astonishing. Tang Feng nodded solemnly. Next, he first introduced the general situation of the Zerg annihilation to everyone. True God, Insect King, there are 100 million Zerg in one squadron? There is also a cosmic fleet with unknown power and unknown number? Hearing Tang Feng's words, everyone present was shocked from time to time. It was too terrifying, and terrifying. That's it. Everyone can express their opinions, discuss together, and see how to deal with the crisis of annihilating the Zerg. Tang Feng said calmly while drinking Linger's freshly brewed tea. For him, as long as the Worm King didn't take action, the 100 million Annihilation Zerg, although there were a lot of them, would surely resist, so there was nothing to panic about. Seeing Tang Feng so calm, everyone present was infected. The panic gradually disappeared and calm was restored. You knew about the big event of the Zerg invasion 3 days ago. Why did you come back and tell us now? Really, I don't know the priorities at all. The Black Queen spoke first, gave Tang Feng a blank look and said blame. Ha ha ha, isn't there a 3-month preparation time? So I'll talk to you a few days later. No problem, Tang Feng said with a ha-ha. That's what I thought. Anyway, he is not afraid of annihilating the Zerg. The soldiers will block the water and cover the ground. 3 months of preparation time is enough. If you are in a hurry, it is not too late. It is better to be lazy for a few days. 0. Flowers. As for Tang Feng's words, the Black Queen and the others were speechless. They glared at him angrily, and felt very tired. To be lazy, They didn't take the annihilation of the Zerg invasion seriously. Did they find an irresponsible king? Linger, Kin, and Blinking were all embarrassed. After all, they had a great time playing with Tang Feng in the past 3 days, and they forgot about the annihilation of the invasion. Zerg for the time being. In fact, the most important reason is that everyone believes in Tang Feng. No matter what the crisis is, it will never be difficult for him, and they are already blindly worshipping. There are only 3 months left. No, it is 3 days less now, and there is not much time for us to prepare. We must act quickly now. I suggest that we put aside national construction in advance, and let it be for the time being, and first gather all the mutants with combat power, concentrate on training, and deal with the invasion of the Annihilation Zerg. This is a war between humans and the annihilation of the Zerg. If you win, you will save the planet. If you lose, you will perish. Charles pushed the wheelchair, came to the front of the crowd, and said sternly, "My executive minister, you are wrong. As long as I am here, the outcome of the war will only be victorious, not defeated." 99 Tang Feng smiled and said solemnly and forcefully, "Ha ha ha, the king is right, we will win." Although the Annihilation Zerg are terrifying and there are many of them, we mutants are not vegetarians, and the nuclear weapons invented by us are no joke. I originally thought that with the establishment of Atlantis and the shock of the king, I, the old man, would retire from battle forever. I didn't expect that there would be a day when I would go to the battlefield. 5 Magneto stood up and laughed. "After waiting for the war, I hope you don't lose your old waist," Tang Feng joked. As soon as these words came out, except for Magneto, everyone present couldn't help but let out a PSST and laughed out loud. Magneto shook his head speechlessly, touched his waist, and made a decision. When it comes to war, he must let everyone see how powerful he is with all his strength. Chapter 155 The goal of Tang Feng's training. After everyone deliberated and made a decision, the construction of Atlantis was temporarily suspended and began to enter a national army selection boom. One by one busy preparing for war. This is destined to be a big action. Originally, every habitual move of Atlantis was to attract the attention of the entire world at any time. Now that it has been done, all countries immediately become nervous. With Tang Feng's deterrent power, no one dared to provoke Atlantis, so they just quietly and steadily build the country. So what's the point of making so much noise now? Wouldn't it be starting a war, invading a certain country? All countries, big or small, are making wild guesses in their hearts. They didn't know what Atlantis was doing until the Avengers and other heroes came to the door in teams and told them the truth in a serious and earnest manner. Atlantis is indeed preparing for war, but it has nothing to do with them, but wants to 940 against the Annihilation Zerg. The Annihilation Zerg of the universe. The number is astonishing. There are cosmic fleets and high-level Zerg leaders. They will invade the planet. This is the plot that happened in the movie and the game. It would be hard for them to believe that the Avengers would not joke about it if they had not known it. It is also clear that if it is false, Tang Feng does not need to do anything unnecessary to gather the strength of the mutants across the country and prepare for war. Therefore, no matter how unbelievable it is, they have to believe that the Annihilation Zerg will invade the planet in less than 3 months, and they must unite and prepare for war within this time. Because this incident is so astonishing, it will not cause panic among ordinary people all over the world, fearing that the world will be in chaos before the war comes. Therefore, all countries tacitly chose to hide it. Even Atlantis was no exception. They all found a reason for military exercise. On the surface, it is holding military exercises, showing the country's war power to the outside world, secretly sending out the most elite soldiers, and preparing the most advanced weapons. One by one, the intercontinental missile silo has entered a state of emergency war. Nuclear warheads, hydrogen bombs, etc. Nuclear weapons are also placed on rocket propellers that can be launched at any time. Although it was prepared to use nuclear weapons, however, the power of nuclear weapons is not only great, but also the damage to the planet. In the war against the annihilation of the Zerg, unless it is a last resort, nuclear weapons will not be easily used. In Atlantis, because the population is not too large, only close to 930,000, and the mutants are about 560,000. On a global scale, more than half of the mutants are gathered. After all, the number of mutants is relatively small compared to ordinary humans. Therefore, a small population also has the advantage of a small population. It is not so troublesome to prepare for war. Within about 10 days, mutants who are suitable for age 20 to 35 years old and capable of fighting are initially screened. The standard of combat power, no matter whether the strength is strong or weak, as long as the physical quality is stronger than the standard line of ordinary adult men, the ability he has is not tacky and can pass the primary election. Mutant is the evolution of ordinary people. As long as Awakening has the ability, his physique will be passively improved to a certain extent. If at the selected age, after Awakening, the physique is not comparable to that of ordinary adult men, then it is also a waste of mutant. After the preliminary selection, 166,853 mutants were selected. Tang Feng was stunned for a moment when he knew the number, then sighed and shook his head. Sure enough, even in mutant, there are only a few outstanding talents, and most of them are weak chickens. Although the age is limited, it shouldn't be that small. Unfortunately, many mutants' skills are very tasteless. Not only do they have no combat ability, but they may also be a burden on themselves. The ability is not good, and the physical fitness has not improved much. It is simply a failed mutant, useless. Then, the second 10-day selection, exclude all mutants who are not brave enough and have weak ability in their hearts. This is a war with the annihilation of the Zerg. I don't expect the new recruits to be bold. At least they must suppress their fears, and cannot be scared before the war starts. Such recruits will only cause trouble, drag them down, and implicate deadmen. In this selection, another 65,361 recruits were excluded, almost a third of them born in peacetime. There are sure to be more cowards. After that, comes the third 10-day selection, which is also the final exclusion selection. The selection method focuses on exercises, requiring each recruit to know how to use their abilities on the battlefield to cooperate with the battle. After 2 screenings, the mutants who can stay are considered outstanding talents. Therefore, after the chaos of the past few days, I gradually got used to how to cooperate with the battle. This time, 3,473 recruits were excluded. They were all idiots who were not smart enough to understand how to cooperate in combat. If their ability is strong, they are also qualified to stay and become an elite individual soldier. However, the ability is not too strong, so they can only pack their burdens and leave. After 3 screenings, the remaining mutant recruits totaled 98,019. Tang Feng felt sorry for this number, so he simply selected a few losers to join and formed 100,000 recruits. Although these recruits have a poor sense of cooperation, each of them is at least stronger than ordinary people. In the 3 screenings in a month, they also look like soldiers. The recruits who can fight have been initially selected, and the next step is to train them day and night. In Tang Feng's political office, Magneto came to report to him about the recruits. There are only 2 months left. In such a short period of time, no matter how much you train, it is estimated that it is impossible to turn the recruits into strong soldiers. Perhaps, when facing the annihilation of the Zerg, there will be recruits who are still terrified. Tang Feng sat on the swivel chair, his body swaying slightly. He was fiddling with a pen in his right hand and said in a low voice, "There's nothing we can do about it. They're all a group of recruits and haven't killed anyone yet, so we can only do our best to train them. Besides, the remaining time is less than 2 months, not 2 months, King." Magneto looked at Tang Feng and reminded him word by word. Tang Feng was speechless. He was just being lazy for 3 days. Should he hold a grudge like this? Cough. I have seen the training plan you negotiated, although all aspects have been considered. However, the time is not enough. You should not think about how to train, but how to adapt to the actual war. Tang Feng coughed a few times, pressed the pen on the table, made a crisp sound, and said seriously, "We have also considered this. However, due to the 4.7 invasion crisis that wiped out the Zerg, some countries that were in crisis before, under the oppression of the Allied countries, temporarily stopped and had to join the ranks of the joint confrontation. and could not find suitable training targets for a while. There is no other way. We have to find some international criminal organizations and let the recruits see blood. Magneto sighed helplessly and said, "Actually, it's not completely impossible. I know that there is a suitable place to train soldiers. It is a hidden country with a sparse population. It can be said that all people are soldiers." 35 If all goes well, not only will you play the role of training troops, but you will also obtain the unimaginable vibranium and receive their science and technology, greatly improving our technological level, and you will definitely be able to directly rise to the first in the world. 5 And try to subdue them as well. Tang Feng looked at Magneto with a flash of light in his eyes and said mysteriously, "If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels." Chapter 156, The Avengers Who Are Separated in Appearance. "What did you say?" Magneto was taken aback and asked in astonishment. "There is a lot of vibranium? Warriors from all over the village? There is such a country? How could I not know?" "It's normal that you don't know. The country of Wakanda not only has a lot of vibranium, but also has very developed technology and good camouflage. On the surface, it is a poor and backward agricultural country, and the outside world has not let the outside world discover its true face. However, if you can fool you, you can't fool me," Tang Feng said, and then briefly introduced the situation of Wakanda to Magneto. Magneto was stunned when he heard it, and was amazed again and again. He really didn't expect that such a powerful country would be hidden in this world. Yes, it is a powerful country, although the population is sparse, but with the most advanced technology and powerful vibranium weapons, it can also be called a powerful country. This is the general situation of Wakanda. Although the population is small, in fact, everyone can be a soldier, with advanced science and technology and vibranium. In terms of war potential, they are also among the best in the world. If only I didn't have me, even if you lead a mutant to attack Wakanda, even if you win in the end, you will lose a lot. Tang Feng concluded, "I don't believe that no matter how strong Wakanda's technology is, in the face of my control of the magnetic field, as long as it is metal, it is under my control and has no effect." Magneto was not convinced. As a fourth-level mutant, he was also arrogant. "Don't be so sure. Everyone said that their scientific research level is very strong, and there is a genius scientist who wants to invent an instrument that shields your magnetic field control. It's a matter of minutes." So, remember one sentence: in this world, powerful skill is not absolutely invincible. You must be careful of black technology. Tang Feng shook his head and said with emotion, "This is a famous saying in the Marvel world. With black technology, it is common for the weak to defeat the strong. It is also common to kill strong enemies and create miracles. Since the king said so, then I will see what amazing performance Wakanda has. Please give an order when to attack." Magneto snorted, still not convinced, and asked in a deep voice, "Don't be in such a hurry. Call the professor and the others first, and have a pre-war meeting to discuss it." After Tang Feng finished speaking, he picked up the phone on the side of the table. Roar called Linger and told him to call everyone together for a meeting. Jingle, jingle. Just as Tang Feng was waiting for everyone to gather together, before the meeting, his personal cell phone rang, and he pulled out the caller ID, and it turned out to be Captain Marvel Carol. "Hey, is it Carol? Calling at this hour, what's wrong?" Tang Feng answered the phone and asked, "There's something I want to discuss with you. We've notified all the countries and asked them to join hands, including us, to prepare for war. It's just that we thought of something very embarrassing. Since we didn't know which location the Annihilation Zerg would choose to descend on when they invaded the planet, it was difficult to arrive in time to prevent the Annihilation Zerg from harming ordinary people. I think about your spatial teleportation ability, so I want to borrow your ability to bring us, as well as the armies of various countries, to the battlefield quickly when the Annihilation Zerg arrives." Carol's voice came clearly from the phone. "You don't have to think about this kind of thing. I'm not a porter, so I don't do this kind of thing. Tang Feng categorically refused. Tang Feng, this is about the safety of the entire planet. If we can't reach the place where the Annihilation Zerg descended as soon as possible, let's let the Annihilation Zerg spread out and spread throughout the world. In the end, even if we win the war and wipe out the Annihilation Zerg, it will also kill and injure many people, and the planet will suffer great damage. For the sake of Blue Star, for the sake of all mankind, please consider carefully. Carol said anxiously. Okay, don't use justice to oppress me, I won't eat your way. 35 Actually, things are not as bad as you think. I have a way to let the Annihilation Zerg come to my designated place. It just so happens that I am about to start a war, occupy that place, and make it the battlefield where we gather. The most annoying thing for Tang Feng is to talk about DAE, and he was a little uneasy. After finishing speaking, he didn't wait for Carol to ask him any more questions. He pressed the power button and lost the phone. The gathered people gathered together and the meeting began. Alright, that's great. Don't you know Tang Feng's temper? It's a miracle that he doesn't get angry and announce his decision to leave the Union. The Stark Building, the Avengers' temporary headquarters. Carol, Captain, Tony, Black Widow, Hawkeye, Dr. Banner, and a sullen orange cat that eats fish, all gathered together. Tony sneered at Carol while clapping his hands. How I want to talk to Tang Feng is my business, you don't need to worry about it. Carol is also a temperamental person. Tang Feng hung up the phone if he didn't agree, and Tony laughed at her again, causing her to throw the phone angrily, and with a bang, the phone pierced the bulletproof glass and flew far away. The quality of the glass is not good. It is recommended that you replace it with a better quality one, otherwise you are not qualified to be the temporary headquarters of the Avengers. Carol raised her tone at the temporary words. I'll change it. Your hands are too strong, and probably no man can withstand it. I will replace it with aerospace glass. 99 Tony wanted to say something about 940's way. Carol listened and glared at him angrily. Tony also showed no weakness, staring back at her. That's enough. Calm down. Now is not the time for infighting. You should have listened to Tang Feng's words just now. A war is going to start. 35 The captain stepped forward, stood between the two of them, and solemnly reminded, Humphrey, stop it. With the captain's persuasion, Carol and Tony also calmed down. Each snorted, stopped staring, turned their faces away, and looked away. War is war. You don't care who Tang Feng fights with. We can't do anything about it anyway. 5 Tony walked over to the wine rack, poured himself a glass of red wine, and slowly tasted it, not paying attention. No, you are wrong. It is wrong to start a war without authorization. No matter how strong Tang Feng is, we must not lose the courage to resist. We must stop him. 35 The captain solemnly said, Okay, as expected of the captain, go and stop this. I hope you come back alive. Don't think about asking me to leave. Tony said compliments, but the expression on his face was sarcastic. Chapter 157 Attack on Wakanda. Tony, are you trying to escape? Are you afraid of Tang Feng? It's funny, I'm not afraid. It should be said that I don't act recklessly. I finally agreed with Tang Feng to join forces to fight against the Annihilation Zerg. If you stop him and anger him again, let him withdraw from the alliance. I'll see what you should do then. They are two different things. Just because he agreed to join forces, you can't ignore him by waging war without authorization. Tony, you have disappointed me. I didn't expect you to think that way. I've seen people like you in the universe. There are too many, all through compromise, sacrificing part of one's life and saving the other half, loudly roaring justice. What do you mean by that? Are you calling me around the corner and saying that my justice is hypocritical? Is that so? Do you understand in your heart? Yes, I don't understand. Please explain it to me. Wait, we are all a team. Stop arguing. Let's calm down first, and then discuss how to stop Tang Feng. I have nothing to say with you, an old man. I am stubborn and don't know how to adapt, and sooner or later I will kill Tang Feng. Even if he dies, he is still a superhero, worthy of the justice he insists on in his heart. Unlike some people. What did you say? Please speak clearly, don't say it vaguely. Don't think you are the strongest. I am afraid of you." Tony and Captain Marvel and Carol argued and argued, each looking at each other unhappy. If it weren't for their rationality, maybe they would fight on the spot. Hawkeye, Black Widow, Dr. Banner and the Orange Cat are all watching helplessly, feeling very tired. The future is bleak. Everyone is not convinced. They have their own ideas. How can the Avengers work together to fight the enemy if this continues? Ever since Tang Feng killed Hydra and exposed S.H.I.E.L.D. hiding a large number of Hydra spies, countries have been wary of S.H.I.E.L.D. Just like the original plot of Time and Space, S.H.I.E.L.D. still escaped the fate of not disintegrating. S.H.I.E.L.D. was disbanded, and Nick Fury quietly left with a group of loyal agents. Although there was no recognition from various countries, he still secretly insisted on maintaining world peace. As for the Avengers, he also did as he said, no longer served as the commander-in-chief, and he was automatically resigning. Apart from keeping in touch, he has no relationship with the Avengers. In this way, the Avengers, as Tony wished, separated from S.H.I.E.L.D., acted on their own, and would never obey anyone's orders again. Since the Avengers have no headquarters for the time being, Tony dedicated the Stark building as temporary headquarters, and then began the team's first task after leaving S.H.I.E.L.D. It is to inform all countries to prepare to face the war of annihilation of the Zerg. During this process, a lot of things happened to the Avengers, for example, disagreements, constant disputes, and fighting every 3 or 2 days. For example, Captain, Black Widow, and Hawkeye, who are eager to fight against international criminal organizations, are sometimes too busy to ask Tony to accompany. But all they get are rejections. In Tony's words, the mere international criminal organization, compared with the crisis of annihilating the Zerg, is not worth mentioning, so don't bother him to develop new technologies. He had too many things to do, so he worked with Dr. Banner to study the S.H.I.E.L.D., trying to strengthen the S.H.I.E.L.D.'s function of storing cube energy, thereby enhancing the S.H.I.E.L.D.'s protective power. It is worth mentioning that since S.H.I.E.L.D. was disbanded, after disappearing through Hydra, it was too late to destroy some information. They also discovered that Hydra has been secretly studying the Rubik's Cube and stealing many Rubik's Cube weapons. At this point, Tony taunted Nick Fury again. So, Tony thought that Nick Fury was no longer qualified to possess such a dangerous thing as the Rubik's Cube, and it was not easy to hand it over to various countries, for fear that countries would study it indiscriminately and cause big troubles. So, Tony and Carol, Captain and others, have a rare agreement to protect the Rubik's Cube from the Avengers. This is why Tony took advantage of the convenience and began to study the Rubik's Cube ignorantly and fearlessly, wanting to use the power of the Rubik's Cube to strengthen the function of the S.H.I.E.L.D. and the steel battlesuit. If Captain Marvel Carol had known that the Rubik's Cube was one of the infinity gems in the universe, the space gem, she would not have let Tony die so much. There are a total of 6 infinity gems, each of which has infinitely powerful power. Masters of forces such as Thanos, Kree, and Zerg are all chasing infinity gems. Even the true gods are no exception. If they sense the power of the infinity gems appearing on the blue star, they will surely pounce, and such a situation is definitely an extinction crisis. However, fortunately, the space gem is hidden in the energy body of the Rubik's Cube, and only the energy of the Rubik's Cube has been studied, and the power of the space gem has not been activated, so there has been no trouble. It is also because the space gem is hidden in the energy body of the cube. Captain Marvel Carol does not know the famous space gem, which is in the cube, but he always thought that the cube is the energy core that the Kree people want to snatch. The Ancient One also does not know about this, because the infinity gems interact with each other, and one cannot sense another infinity gem with an infinity gem. Even the power of the time gem will be disturbed by the power of the space gem, and Ella can't predict anything related to the space gem, so she has been kept in the dark. Only Tang Feng knew what the Rubik's Cube was hiding, but he didn't say anything. Anyway, the war between the infinity gems was like fate. As long as he didn't deliberately interfere, it was like the plot of the original Time and Space. It was inevitable and would happen eventually. So he let Tony and the others throw the Rubik's Cube, as long as the time didn't come. No matter whether Tony studied the Rubik's Cube, it would not activate the power of the space gem. If the time comes, Without Tony's research, the space gem will explode on its own and the Infinity Gem War will begin. Just like the arrangement of fate in the dark, everything is already doomed. Fate is supreme, no one can resist. If anyone can change fate, then, Nuomo, it is only me. 35 Atlantis, Tang Feng was suspended in the air, looking at the 100,000 recruits gathered below, as well as Magneto and the others. Their hearts were filled with pride. This is his army, and he can order them to attack any enemy nephew as long as he waves his hand. Now, as a user of the force of fate, he is going to change the fate of Wakanda. Depart. After Tang Feng thought about it, he gave an order and opened a large-scale portal, like an interstellar tunnel, tens of meters high and 100 meters wide, like a giant screen, which appeared in front of the army. When everyone saw this scene, they couldn't help but open their mouths in shock. After a while, they came back to their senses. Under the orders of their respective team leaders, they lined up and moved forward in an orderly line, passing through the portal one after the other. Chapter 158. Have you thought about it? Wakanda, located in East Africa, has a vague international impression. It is a poor and backward agricultural country with a sparse population. Their usual living habits are just like those of the ancients. To Wakanda they will have no impression at all. In fact, they did not know that some vibranium they accidentally picked up were just agricultural tools made by Wakanda. It is so frustrating. The vibranium mine cannot be mined, and many vibranium have been used in daily tools. If Wakanda's situation is discovered to the outside world, for vibranium, those countries must wage war at all costs, and also snatch the vibranium mine. Therefore, Wakanda made an invisible defense cover to hide the real situation of the entire country, but only sent some poorly dressed citizens to stay at the border, pretending to be poor and backward. What makes people speechless is that the plainly dressed citizens are wearing clothes made of vibranium, with super powerful defensive power, and the tools in their hands are also made of vibranium. There is also a black technology made of vibranium, which can form a shield to resist the attack of guns and cannons. The true wealth of these so-called poor citizens is comparable to that of the richest outsiders. Tang Feng, who knows the real situation of Wakanda, is also jealous of the vibranium mine. If there are countless vibraniums to arm his army, how much strength must be strengthened? Moreover, Magneto's control of the 940 magnetic field can also exert the power of vibranium to a terrifying degree. Just like in Naruto, it is the shadow of the wind that controls the sand, and the gold in the sand is far more powerful than ordinary sand. Magneto has vibranium, which is a tiger with a pair of wings, which can soar into the sky and greatly enhance his strength. In Tang Feng's heart, he had an idea for Wakanda, coupled with the imminent annihilation of the Zerg, facing a crisis. Just follow the trend, obtain the vibranium mine, train troops, subdue Wakanda's warriors, receive their advanced technology, and lead the newly formed army to Wakanda with the idea of killing many birds with one stone. Outside the borders of Wakanda, a large number of portals appeared without warning, and the mutant troops lined up neatly, one after another in an orderly manner. Tang Feng also flew down from the top of the portal, hovering high in the sky, looking down at the army gradually pouring out from below. The number of 100,000 people would not come out so quickly, it would take a while. He withdrew his gaze and looked at Wakanda in the distance. From the perspective of his god, he had seen the real situation through the superficial disguise. Wakanda has found us. It will take a while for the army to come out. Magneto, Professor, Black Queen, and Jean, lead them to intercept the Wakandan soldiers first. Tang Feng raised his eyebrows and ordered loudly, "Yes, King." Magneto also responded loudly, raising one hand slightly, manipulating the metal to form a metal plate several tens of meters in size, supporting Charles, the Queen of Darkness, Kin, Wolverine and others, flying over the army and heading towards Wakanda. The purpose of this time is to train soldiers, not only recruits, but also you. So, no matter who dies in the war, I will not intervene. In this way, have you considered it? If you are afraid, you can go back. I won't force you or blame you. Tang Feng looked at the backs of Magneto and the others flying far away, turned on the communicator, and finally expressed his decision. Magneto and the others standing far away were all shocked when they heard it, and when they thought that Tang Feng wouldn't make a move, they were in a mess. There's no need for the king to act. We now have 4 mutants with 4th level strength, as well as Stead, Wolverine and others, plus 100,000 excellent mutant recruits. If this kind of force can't defeat Wakanda, we need you. Help. So, we are too useless. Even if we don't die this time, we will die in the war with the Annihilation Zerg. 99. That's what I think. My old man is not going to give up. Charles stood up and said firm words to the communicator. That's right, he is standing, not in a wheelchair. Because he went to the battlefield, Charles had to abandon his usual wheelchair-bound life. Under Lisa's treatment, he finally recovered his disability, and after decades, he stood up again. Charles is right. In our power, if the king's help is required, we will die in shame. Magneto nodded slightly and said in agreement, this is a war between countries. I have never participated in it, so I will not give up. When I have enough vibranium to kill the wolf, I will commit suicide and let us die together. Ah, what a romantic thing. 35. The well-dressed Deadpool, holding the golden wolf by his side, said excitedly, go away, get away from me, I haven't lived long enough yet. The golden steel wolf pushed Deadpool away, 2 steel claws stretched out, and after a few metallic touches, sparks appeared, ready to fight. All the mutants were ready for battle. Although Tang Feng did not expect that Tang Feng would choose not to help, they were caught off guard and were not prepared at all. However, after they panicked, they calmed down one by one. Just as Charles said, with the current strength of their mutants, if they had to pay a heavy price to defeat Wakanda, they might as well find a piece of tofu and kill them. Since everyone has made a decision, then I wish you the best of luck. Flickering. Linger. Have you all made a decision? After the war starts, I will never intervene in the war, and it will be impossible to protect you. There is also a bit of mischief. Although your ability is good, but you are still young, you should not enter the battlefield so early. 35. So, you. Tang Feng's hesitant words came out of the communication, and Linger interrupted before he finished speaking. Brother, it goes without saying that as a 3rd-level mutant, no matter what my status is, I can't turn back. I think the same way. As the Minister of Logistics, my teleportation ability can provide quick rescue, and I can't be lacking on the battlefield. 35. Blink said firmly, King, thank you very much for your concern for me, but I can't turn back. Regardless of age, I can be the captain of peace and security, and I have proven my ability. The mischievous words reached Tang Feng's ears from the communicator. Tang Feng sighed silently. No one was fazed, so he could only choose to support. Anyway, he looked over and saw that Magneto and the others were about to meet the warriors that Wakanda had gathered in an emergency. They met head-on. With one hand, he squeezed hard and invisible fluctuations spread out in an instant, covering all of Wakanda, including the area where his army was located. It happened silently and no one noticed. No, Ancient One noticed it, but chose to remain silent and let Tang Feng come. He couldn't bear it anymore. Chapter 159, Suru's Response. A wave of being, tribal homonym, with the appearance of the roar cry that belonged to Wakanda before the battle. A group of 5,000 urgently gathered warriors, led by the future Black Panther T'Challa, stepped out of the camouflage shield. The opening of the camouflaged shield also allowed Magneto and others who came closer to see the true face of Wakanda. As soon as they looked inside, they were attracted by the distant capital of Wakanda, the capital city of Burning Zana, which was like a sci-fi city in the future, giving people a dreamlike feeling. What a Wakanda! I didn't expect it to have such advanced and strong technology, and the camouflage is so good. It has always deceived us. It is gone. Magneto couldn't help but sigh. Be careful, they are starting to attack. There is another thing wrong. They all have technological equipment that can resist the power of the mind. I can't invade their brains for a while. 99. Charles reminded him with a solemn expression on the side. Very helpless. His spiritual power is very strong, but the black technology in this world is also very powerful. just spiritual power. It is very serious. It is easy to be targeted by ability, often making him unable to use his power, but he can't use it. Ordinary people using defense against psychic power equipment. Your ability is not suitable for rushing to the front and you are targeted again. Then you should stay behind, observe the overall situation, and direct the war. Scott, Oralo, Beast, Little Naughty, Colossus, Tanglinger, all of you stay here. Beside Charles, protect him. The others, come with me, Magneto said decisively, and manipulated the metal plate to lower everyone to the ground, and then the metal plate carried him to flight towards the 5,000 Wakandan warriors first. The Black Queen smiled and stomped hard on the ground, her life force attached to the earth and realized control, making the earth like a wave, and she chased after her. Kin raised her head, her hands were open, her long hair fluttering without wind, and the powerful psychokinesis used it to fly into the sky immediately, catching up with Magneto. The storm, the rapids controlled the wind and carried them away. Iceman Poppy made an ice rink, slid and chased, and the fireman took out a lighter, controlled the flame as a driving force, and slid on the ice rink. The White Queen shook her head, looked at Flicker, and raised her head slightly. Flicker realized, opened the space channel, not only brought the White Queen, but also brought Mystique, Chameleon, Sabretooth, Wolverine and others. The Blue Devil himself used teleportation to catch up with them. Angel spread his angel wings and flew into the sky, chasing everyone. A silver light flashed, which was the speed of Quicksilver. Except for Charles, Linger and others who stayed to protect, the others almost all fled within a few seconds. Sheet, damn it, you weren't loyal enough to take me with you, fake. Deadpool jumped on the spot again and again, cursing constantly, and could only walk on his legs. His mouth stank so much and he spoke so well that it offended everyone and no one wanted to take him with them. Everyone, I will leave you alone for my safety. Unfortunately, I did not expect this old man to stop you. Charles turned to look at Linger and the others and said with a wry smile, Professor, please don't say that. We not only need you to command the overall war, but we also need your support. I believe that your ability will always be used, and your mental defense equipment cannot be used all the time. Linger's special status gave Magneto an excuse to keep her. She did not complain, she just did her thing. She said comfortingly, ha ha ha. What I'm saying is that you all have expectations for me, so I can't be so discouraged. Charles laughed and said, he was no longer at a loss. He regained his spirit, and his spiritual ability spread out, covering the army in the rear, and began to instruct the army on how to adjust their tails and prepare for battle. At the same time, he tried to invade the entire country of Wakanda with spiritual power, but there was some kind of energy fluctuation, which temporarily interfered with his power, to no avail. Okay, with the psychic defense device I made, and this defense measure, Charles's psychic power can't harm us temporarily. Now the problem is Magneto, the new type of protective shield I made in a hurry. It can only protect the king. Some of the fighters they led will not let their weapons be taken away. The rest of the fighters are temporarily gone. You can only take off your armor and pick up wooden or plastic weapons to fight. The capital of Wakanda, whose brain is as smart as Tony's princess, Suru, stood in front of the console and pressed a large number of buttons quickly until the last button was pressed, finally heaved a sigh of relief, and then automatically the path of guilt. You have done a good job. No matter how strong the mutants are, if they dare to invade our country, they will never come back. Zeroed the current Black Panther, the old king said with a murderous look in his eyes. Isn't it rumored that there will be an invasion crisis to annihilate the Zerg? At such a critical moment, why do these mutants go all out to invade our country? Is there any misunderstanding in this? Suru hesitated and said, you are wrong. It is not a misunderstanding at all. If I am not mistaken, it should be the real situation of our country, which is known to mutant, so it suddenly invaded. The old king gritted his teeth and said firmly, if it weren't for the secret surveillance measures on the periphery of the border, it might not have been discovered until mutant broke through the camouflage shield and invaded. As soon as he thought of this possibility, he broke out in cold sweat, and it wasn't long before Magneto and Charles joined forces, and Wakanda was defeated and destroyed. 0. Fortunately, he realized it in advance and looked at Surui with relief, and thanks to such a smart daughter, he was able to have the ability to defend against Magneto and Charles. Look at the king. All the tribes have been notified and are quickly gathering. At this moment, Wakabi, the National Defense Commander, walked over and said respectfully, "Very well, go evacuate the civilians first, and start fighting when the soldiers are gathered. This is a battle that affects the survival of the country." The order goes on to tell the civilians to prepare for battle. If the war is unfavorable, when necessary, they must fight to the death. The old king solemnly reminded, "Yes, King." Wakabi nodded at the order, and then said worriedly, "The prince has already gone out to defend the enemy. Isn't it too risky?" The old king shook his head decisively, and said firmly and helplessly, "No, as the prince, he is the next successor of Black Panther and should lead the way. If he dies unfortunately, it will only prove that he is not qualified to be Black Panther." His words floated out, causing everyone present to fall silent. Surui looked at the monitor with worry, waiting for his brother's safe return. "Stop. There is no way forward." Beyond the borders of Wakanda, Magneto's words fell from the sky, followed by countless metal swords that stabbed into the 5,000 warriors below. Chapter 160. The Despair of the Black Panther. Defense in place. The Prince of Wakanda, the future Black Panther, T'Challa shouted and opened the shield of his Black Panther battlesuit. The other 5,000 warriors also raised their vibranium weapons, opened their protective shields, and quickly joined in to protect them. The sound of clang the clank continued to sound, and countless metal blades failed to penetrate through the protective cover. "The defense is very strong, and it also interferes with my magnetic field control ability, preventing me from controlling your metal weapons through the shield." "Wakanda, it's really amazing," Magneto muttered to himself in the sky, waved his hand, strengthened his control power, and took back the metal that had been thrown out before. Above the protective cover, it condensed to form a huge metal with a length of 20 to 30 meters and a thickness of 3 meters. "Go ahead." When Magneto pointed down, huge amounts of metal spears 940 suddenly headed towards the protective cover, causing a loud sonic boom along the way, which was scary to watch. Concentrated gunfire. T'Challa's pupils shrank, and he immediately judged that the shield's strength could not stop the metal spear. If all the fighters carry protective shields, it is possible to block them. However, due to the rush of time, some warriors did not have the special protective shield made by Shuri. In this way, warriors without special protective shields did not dare to carry metal weapons, but only weapons made of wood or plastic. Knowing that he could not resist, T'Challa decisively changed his tactics. Some of the warriors with metal weapons quickly responded. All of them were elite warriors, half kneeling on the ground, and they all held their spears high together, with the tip of the spear pointed at the metal spear above. I saw that from the tip of the gun. Laser-like rays were emitted one by one. After another, Magneto struck the metal head of the weapon with precision. Then, the rumbling sound continued, and huge amounts of metal spears were constantly launched by continuous laser beams. T'Challa saw this, and before he could breathe a sigh of relief, he was shocked to see countless metal particles emerging from the ground, gathering around Magneto, and then forming a 100-meter-long solid iron ball. Then, the large iron ball fell violently. Everyone obeys the order and immediately disperses. T'Challa stared at him, shouted frantically, and fled first. Boom! With a loud bang, the big iron ball, under Magneto's control, coupled with the acceleration of gravity, smashed down very quickly, and its power was also very strong. It shattered the place where T'Challa was standing before, smashed a large round pit, and then ran a distance, crushing the soldiers who were about to flee to death. Now, no matter whether the soldiers have protective shields or not, they will be crushed if they don't run fast. After T'Challa escaped into the distance in a thrilling manner, when he looked back, he was distraught. 5,000 soldiers were crushed to death by nearly 1,000. This was definitely a massacre. This slaughter hasn't ended yet. Kin arrived right after, and psychokinesis broke out. He rolled more than 300 warriors at once and took them into the sky. Then, without a trace of fear, He was shocked. Quintanilla lowered his head expressionlessly, looked at Kala, held him with an empty hand, and lifted him into the sky, along with hundreds of soldiers accompanying him, preparing to do it again. Quintanilla's killing method was simple, violent, and neat. By integrating the consciousness of Dark Phoenix, Quintanilla is no longer what he used to be. Bang! Bang 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 bang! A silver light flashed between the soldiers, and the soldiers fainted with a groan. Not even knowing what happened. You're lucky enough to take me down, they won't show any mercy. Quicksilver appeared in a clearing and said with a shrug, hoo hoo hoo. The space channel appeared. Sabretooth, Wolverine, Juggernaut and others took the lead and rushed towards the Wakandan warriors, completely ignoring their own safety. Like a madman, they just kept attacking. Hey Poppy, let's see who killed more people. Fireman John sent out a huge fireball. His face was very flushed, very excited. He enjoyed the killing. No, I don't want to compare this kind of thing. Iceman Poppy responded and turned the ground into ice, causing the warriors to slip, and then made ice spikes and stabbed those warriors without killing them, and her heart softened. Wanda used the magic power of red chaos to blow up the warriors, and she was also ruthless. The seemingly cool boy with a negative sonic warhead, his face has turned pale, and his usual impact is very powerful. Now when he hits the soldiers, he just lets them scream and fly back, and then quickly stands up. Except for Quicksilver and Wanda, the rest of the good-hearted people belong to the camp of Charles, who is the good mutant. The only difference is John the Burning Man, who was born in the evil camp. Compared with them, Quickstrike, Torrent, Stormwind, Lava, etc., are much simpler, ruthless and ruthless. For a time, the screams continued, and the remaining 4,000 warriors were being slaughtered by these elite mutants, or were knocked down one after another, and the number of warriors who could stand was rapidly decreasing. In this regard, T'Challa hated helplessness. If it weren't for the protection of the Black Panther battlesuit, he might have been dead when he fell from the sky. Even if he was lucky enough not to die, he was still injured and his internal organs were bleeding. T'Challa struggled to get up from the ground in despair, and looked around the battlefield in pain. All the soldiers were killed, as if they were entering hell. At this moment, his heart was ashes. At this moment, a light appeared. A trail of flight appeared from the horizon, and before the sound of the sonic boom could be heard, a figure emitting a dazzling light had already flown into the battlefield, descended, and crashed into the ground violently. There was a loud bang, and a circle of shockwave energy spread out, sending everyone flying in an instant, thus temporarily stopping the one-sided slaughter. Captain Marvel Carol Danvers, 35, Keen used psychokinesis to protect herself, suspended in the air, looked at the bottom of the billowing smoke, and said word by word 4.7 times. Trouble, damn Avengers, for meddling in our war with Wakanda. Magneto stood on an iron plate, flew close, looked at the fighter planes flying from the sky, and said in a deep voice, he is not afraid of the Avengers, but one of them, Captain Marvel Carol. Without Tang Feng's help, they simply wouldn't be able to resist. The Annihilation Zerg will arrive soon, but you have to start a war without authorization and kill innocent people. It is too unreasonable to do so. I won't allow you to do this, Tang Feng, come out with me. We need an explanation. Carol scattered the dust, climbed out of the big pit, and shouted angrily. The fighter plane arrived and hovered in the sky. The captain, Black Widow, and Hawkeye landed and stood on both sides of Carol. Chapter 161 Multiple choice questions given by Tang Feng. The Avengers came, but only Captain Marvel, Carol, Captain, Black Widow, Hawkeye. A total of 4 superheroes came. Iron Man Tony and Dr. Banner did not come. History Stark Building, temporary headquarters of the Avengers. The sound of Clang the Clank kept coming, and Tony was working on a new steel battlesuit himself. Everyone's gone, why don't you go? While working, Tony pretended to have no intention of doing so from time to time, looking at the video that was playing and asking, I don't see any reason why I have to go. 35 Dr. Banner shook his head with a confused wry smile. He sat on the sofa and looked at the video playing on the big screen. The image played in the video is related to the Wakanda battlefield. under the surveillance of Tony's private satellite. Even if they didn't arrive at the scene in person, they could always keep an eye on the situation on the battlefield. Yeah, there is absolutely no need to go. 39 It's obviously just a poor and backward country, but it unexpectedly has a technological level that far surpasses the current world. Those warriors are also so strong, especially the cold weapons in their hands, which don't look like ordinary metals. They must be made of some kind of metal, made of high-strength metal in 09. 5 I heard that vibranium appeared in Wakanda. Maybe the very precious and rare vibranium was used. If it weren't for Tang Feng and the others starting a war and attacking the country of Wakanda, we would have been kept in the dark. Wakanda obviously has such a strong capital and is fully qualified to pursue the status of world hegemony, but it has been hiding it all the time. It must have hidden ambitions or secrets. For example, with a lot of vibranium, maybe a vibranium mine. So, we don't have to worry about Wakanda at all. Let Tang Feng start the war, and when Tang Feng takes Wakanda, maybe we can. 35 Tony pretended not to care, jokingly, tilted his head to look at the video, and saw that Captain Marvel, Carol and others had arrived and confronted Magneto and others. He didn't expect, and the joke was true, that Wakanda really had a vibranium mine. Dr. Banner shook his head as he listened. He didn't believe Tony's nonsense at all. How could there be so many rare and precious vibranium, Wakanda, and extravagantly manufacture so many cold weapons? He is struggling. The hesitation is uncertain. It was originally an experimental accident, which created the monster Hulk. When faced with the pursuit of General Ross, he was distressed. It happened that S.H.I.E.L.D. came to invite him, and Captain Marvel Carol was able to restrain the Hulk. So he joined the trend. Avengers. Therefore, Dr. Banner has always been the idea of a scientist, without thinking about what to do with a superhero. As for Tang Feng's war, he, like Tony, maintained an indifferent attitude and did not want to intervene in the past. And the most important point, I can't beat Tang Feng and I don't want to look for abuse. It's just that Carol, the captain and others didn't think so. The responsibility with a strong sense of justice made them unable to ignore it and finally chose to intervene. Dr. Banner's fight is to go or not to go. In fact, Tony also has this entanglement, although he can't get along with Carol and the others. But it is also a team. It is impossible to die without help. He sighed silently and immersed himself in his work. Even if he went, what if he couldn't beat Tang Feng? He was just looking for abuse. If he angered Tang Feng, he might really die. It's not always so lucky. Why don't they just understand? Tang Feng does his thing, we do our thing, and we don't interfere with each other. Isn't it good? Suddenly, Tony threw the key angrily, hating that iron is not steel. Dr. Banner smiled bitterly at this, because everyone had different ideas, so he couldn't force it. Suddenly, Tang Feng's figure appeared on the screen, attracting their attention. Wakanda border battlefield. When Captain Marvel Carol appeared, the specially created shockwave, so that the mutants who were swept away, all gathered one after another, with Jean, Magneto and the Black Queen standing in front. On the other side were T'Challa and the remaining warriors, less than 1,000 of them. In the middle were Carol, Captain, Black Widow and Hawkeye. A figure flew out from the sky. Tang Feng slowly flew over after knowing that Carol and others had intervened in the battlefield. Although there are still 2 actors missing, it doesn't matter anymore. Tang Feng thought to himself. With one hand behind his back, he still maintained an empty grip, and the power of the invisible circulated in the center of his palm. Carol, Captain, are you really going to meddle in the war one have entrusted to you? Have you made up your mind yet? The consequences of angering me will be dead man. As soon as Tang Feng flew over the battlefield, he lowered his head and looked at Carol and the other 4, and said in a deep voice, "We are never afraid of death, and no matter how strong the enemy is, it is not an excuse for us to retreat." The captain stood up, raised his shield, and spoke first. "Yes, the captain's words are what we mean. If we are afraid, then we don't have to rush here." Carol flew over, looked at Tang Feng, and said firmly. At the same time, she was suspicious, as if she felt a very abnormal energy fluctuation coming from Tang Feng, and she always felt that something was wrong. I am training troops to deal with the upcoming Zerg annihilation. If you really want to intervene, then as long as you promise me one condition, I will give you a chance to intervene on the battlefield and will not take action against you." Tang Feng frowned, aware of what Carol might have sensed, and quickly opened his mouth to interrupt her sense. "What did you say? You don't? What are the conditions?" Carol was stunned when she heard it and asked, regardless of what was wrong, "I originally planned to train. If I shoot, there will be no effect of the training. So, as long as you don't use the double star status, I promise not to shoot. If you manage to defeat my army and save Wakanda, or if my army defeated you and won the war, I don't care. Also, if you are involved in a war, whether it is life or death, it depends on fate. How, yes or no?" Tang Feng raised his other left hand, as if he was gathering strength, clearly threatening Carol. "You, don't persuade me to stop, don't engage in internal strife, and you can't start a war without permission, just tell me what the answer is. My patience is limited, I give you 3 seconds to choose." Tang Feng interrupted what Carol was about to say, and after speaking, he clenched his left hand and stretched out an index finger. With 3 fingers and 3 words, Carol made a decision and quickly said, "I agree." After she finished speaking, she walked out of the double star state, without the power of the 5th level. "You made a wise decision. So, the war will continue to begin and we will see who the final winner is," Tang Feng announced and flew slowly. "Wait, the king of Atlantis, we Wakanda have always been indifferent to the world, wondering why we attack each other without offending you mutants." At this moment, T'Challa screamed loudly on the ground, without asking why. He was not reconciled to death. Without enough strength to protect, all you have is the original sin. Tang Feng's cold words came from far away with the wind. Chapter 162 Captain Marvel, 1 against 4. "Damn it." T'Challa looked at Tang Feng's figure disappearing into the sky, half kneeling on the ground. He pounded the ground heavily, shouted in anger and unwillingness. Tang Feng's words are very clear. Even if there is no hatred, Wakanda owns the vibranium mine and has such advanced science and technology. It was originally a tempting cake. So, T'Challa knew in his heart that war was inevitable unless Wakanda voluntarily surrendered and was willing to hand over everything. This kind of thing cannot be done. "Then let's fight." T'Challa yelled and vented, then stood up again. His eyes were firm, all the useless thoughts about war were suppressed, and he regained his composure, raised his hand high and shouted the Roar tribal language before battle. The remaining soldiers behind him also shouted loudly. For a time, the shouts of less than 1,000 people obviously suppressed the prestige and momentum of everyone present. Magneto, Kin, and the Black Queen looked at each other with expressionless faces. They had gathered their strength and began to fight. This time, due to the intervention of Captain Marvel, Carol and others, there is no need to be careless. Fortunately, Tang Feng and Carol reached an agreement that she could not use the double star status. Otherwise, facing Carol with a 5th level power, no amount of resistance would be useless. I don't know if the decision to confront Tang Feng this time is right or wrong. I only know that this is my sincere choice. I don't care what the situation of your Wakanda is, as long as you are human, I will treat you equally. Although you and I don't know each other, we will be comrades in arms fighting the enemy together. Let's get to know you first. My name is Steve Rogers. The captain was holding a shield, stood beside T'Challa, tilted his head to look at him, smiled kindly, and said slowly, "I know you, Captain M, and you, Captain Marvel, Black Widow, Hawkeye, you are the famous Avengers. 35 inches during the last world. Thank you for coming to rescue us. From now on, you are friends of Wakanda." T'Challa made a tribal salute and said seriously, "I would like to ask you to forget about the last World Conference. The result is too humiliating. It's really not something to brag about." The Black Widow took out 2 short sticks, walked over, and slammed both hands together. The short sticks turned into 2 small long swords, plus the Black Widow's sting weapon worn on the wrist and some small tools hidden on the body, such as a poisonous spider covered in thorns. The same feeling. Hawkeye held a bow in one hand and an arrow in the other. He had already taken out the bow and arrow, and pointed at Mutant who was approaching in front of him. Magneto, Jean Grey, Queen of Darkness, and Charles who didn't show up. I'll deal with it, and I'll leave the rest to you. Carol didn't talk nonsense. She raised the energy in her body, gradually radiating light, crouched slightly, and was about to attack. Be careful. With worry in her eyes, the captain quickly warned. Although she knew that Carol could only use level 4 strength now, she was not sure whether she could withstand the combined attack of the four of them, which was also impossible. Only she could resist the level 4 mutant. Black Widow and Hawkeye also looked at Carol worriedly. Carol turned her head and smiled, without saying anything to reassure her, only said, "After the war is won, let's get drunk." "Okay, I can't beat you, I can definitely get you drunk." The captain suppressed his worries and smiled reluctantly. Carol pursed her lips and smiled, turned her head back, with a fearless fighting intent on her face, leaped forcefully, and immediately flew towards Magneto. Magneto snorted coldly. He was well prepared for Carol's attack. He controlled the iron plate under his feet. While flying backwards, he pointed forward with one hand. A large amount of metal quickly disintegrated. Swords shot out in unison, attacking Carol who was flying. "What?" Carol screamed and punched, like a missile explosion, blasting all the metal sheets flying in front of her. "Prepare it for me." Jean stretched out her hands, aimed at Carol, and squeezed hard. Carol only felt her body tighten and stagnate in the air, giving her control of Jean's psychokinesis. "Captain Marvel, you can't use the double star state now. You no longer have the 5th level power. With the same 4th level power, if you want to fight against the four of them, you have no chance of winning. Now you're done." The Black Queen's words came from below, and I saw a powerful magic power bursting out of her body, and the air was filled with ripples, using the most powerful attack magic, and the space was distorted. Carol only felt a chill in her heart, and a tingling sensation came from her body, and the scene she saw in front of her became distorted. She looked around. Whether it was people or the earth and sky, they were all distorted. This is because she has fallen into the twisted space, so everything she sees is twisted, and soon, her body will be torn apart by the twisted space. It was over. Seeing that the twisted space was swallowing Carol's figure, the Dark Queen couldn't help but feel relieved, thinking of this idea. Boom. At this moment, there was a loud bang. The distorted space split open, and a figure with energy light all over her body flew out of it. "She is Carol," and I saw a few tears on the battle uniform on her body, and there were blood stains on the corner of her mouth. "She was injured. Vertical bar. Isn't she dead? How is it possible?" The Black Queen was startled and shouted subconsciously, "After dark, be careful." Suddenly, Charles's voice came out of her mind, which shocked her, and she came back to her senses, only to see that Carol was about to take the opportunity to attack the ground. Carol did not attack in the end. Her face was blue and white, and she was stuck in the air. "I have temporarily controlled her with my spiritual power. Hurry up." Charles's words, which appeared in the minds of Kin, Magneto, and the Black Queen, Nomad, at the same time, sounded as if they were very difficult to say, and it should be difficult for him to control Carol. The three of them were overjoyed and were about to use their strongest attack methods. The accident happened the next moment. Hearing Carol let out a scream, her eyes were full of dazzling light. She looked in Charles' direction. Her energy suddenly exploded, and she counterattacked following the induction of her psychic power. No, she not only has the means to defend her mind, but also the method of attack. "Ah, nephew," Charles explained in a panic, then screamed and disconnected. "Charles! Professor!" The three of them on the scene screamed in fear. "I'm fine, you don't have to worry, it's just that I won't be able to support you in a short time." It was a while before Charles reconnected the three minds, speaking with an undisguised sense of weakness. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 163 Magneto's Full Power. The teacher has temporarily retired. Tang Feng, who had been paying attention to the situation on the battlefield, shook his head and muttered to himself in disappointment. In the same level of 4, Carol not only defeated 4, but also defeated Charles first. In terms of combat experience, she has been traveling through the universe and fought against various enemies. It is true that Carol has relatively rich combat experience. In terms of strength, even if they were both at the 4th level, even if Carol did not use the double star state, with her strong physical fitness and strong energy, she was stronger than any of the 4. Carol is the ultimate form of Superman plus magic, and has no weaknesses. And Kin and others, although they all have powerful variant skills, but as the fragile magician, close combat is the fatal weakness. The body of the Black Queen, who was transformed with vitality, was also incomparable to Carol. Even so, if one person can't beat it, but 2 people can't beat it, then 3 people and 4 people can fight together. No matter how powerful Carol is, she won't be able to withstand the combined strength of the 4 of them. It's a pity that none of the 4 Kin and the others can cooperate in combat, and their fighting awareness is also very poor. 943 Just now, the 4 of them attacked one after another, giving Carol time to breathe and adjust, so that she had a chance to counterattack Charles. This side of the battlefield, Carol fell to the ground, kept sucking raw, sweat kept coming out, and felt tired for a while. The battle in just a few rounds is extremely exciting, and if you are not careful, you will be defeated and die. After a normal battle is over, you have never been so tired. It's so far away. How did you hurt Charles? Magneto asked suspiciously. It's very simple. I can control energy, and spiritual power can also be said to belong to a type of energy, but compared to ordinary energy, spiritual power is too ethereal, too difficult to sense, and difficult to control. So, I usually can't use my spiritual power, and can only defend against attacks from my spiritual power. However, when the professor tried to control me with his spiritual power just now, his spiritual power was so powerful that it had built an invisible bridge between him and me, connecting our hearts. With the bridge, I can use the energy in the direction of the bridge, a jet, to attack his mind. So, I used energy to hurt his heart just now. If I hadn't disconnected his spiritual connection in time, he might have died. Carol explained, taking the opportunity to gradually recover the energy that was consumed earlier. It's not good. He's taking the opportunity to recover. Let's attack quickly. It was the Black Queen who was the first to react, and noticed that Carol's condition had improved. At the same time as she screamed, life magic spread towards Carol. As long as the life magic power is wrapped around Carol's body, it will absorb her life force. Carol frowned and punched, dissipating the magic power that had rolled out. Immediately after that, she flew backwards and retreated, and the next second she stabbed countless metal blades on the spot. You can't delay any longer, otherwise, you will be defeated one by one and they will all attack together. As Jean screamed, all the psychokinesis broke out and controlled Carol from afar. Carol was already prepared. She also screamed loudly. The blue veins on her face were exposed, and the powerful energy impacted the invisible psychokinesis around her, wanting to break free as soon as possible. Come on, I'm about to lose control of her. Kin hurriedly shouted, her pretty face flushed deeply, as if she was being held by a rope. She couldn't stand firm, and took a few steps forward. Magneto took a deep breath, opened his eyes wide. Without hesitation, the power of magnetic field control burst out, covering Carol, and he also deliberately avoided the battlefield on the other side, so as not to affect his own people. For a moment, everyone on the scene seemed to feel the world change, and it seemed that the planet had stopped spinning. In a trance, it returned to normal. On the other side of the battlefield, the warriors of the Avengers and Wakanda, united, are already fighting against the mutants. What did you feel just now? An illusion? The captain thought in confusion, waved the shield and knocked the Bone Spur Man flying. Then, he reached out, grabbed the flying shield, and crouched down, holding the shield against the Golden Wolf's claws. What a tough shield. It can withstand my claws. The Golden Steel Wolf pressed its claws against the shield, preventing the captain from leaving, and said in admiration. Suddenly, his beast intuition felt something. turned his head and looked at him, his face frowns. The captain took the opportunity to exert his strength, holding the shield and pushing the golden steel wolf away immediately, then looked over and was also stunned. Not only them, but an individual in the battle, temporarily stopped the battle and looked in Carol's direction. I can see the magnetic field that is usually invisible to the naked eye, and I can see it clearly. The magnetic field that enters and exits the electric light surrounds Carol, like the ring around the planet. It is like the field formed by the magnetic field. So, everyone saw that in the field of the magnetic field, there were sharp metal sheets one by one. These metal sheets were rotating in circles around the magnetic field, constantly rotating, gradually accelerating, accelerating, accelerating. This is similar to the launching principle of a railgun. The magnetic field is the orbit, and the metal sheet is accelerated around it, and then fired. The difference is that the metal blade is not launched, but follows the track of the magnetic field, aiming at Carol in the center, and everyone concentrates and flies out. Carol's pupils tightened, noticing that the metal blade was almost finished and was about to fly towards her. She opened her eyes subconsciously, unable to escape or hide. Not only was Qin's psychokinesis bound to her, but the Black Queen also used spatial distortion again to temporarily trap her. At this dangerous moment, Carol's potential exploded and energy burst out, finally breaking free from the shackles of psychokinesis and also escape from the spatial distortion. However, countless metal blades, like super electromagnetic cannons, are 20 or 30 times faster than the speed of sound and have already flown in front of them. Carol only came with her hands to protect her in front, desperately bursting out energy, and in the next moment, her figure was drowned by countless metal blades. Boom boom, boom 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 boom. In an instant, a harsh sound, an explosive sound, kept resounding through the sky, because the explosive power was too violent, and the magnetic field was completely broken. After a few minutes, the place where Carol was standing gradually returned to calm. The original ground was replaced by a large pit, and the edge of the pit can be seen, with traces of scorched black. Captain Marvel: Carol is at the bottom of the pit, and it is temporarily unknown what the situation is, whether she is alive or dead. She should be dead, unless she uses the double star state and explodes with 5th level power. Qin covered her aching head with one hand. This was because she used psychokinesis with all her strength just now, and after Carol opened it, she was attacked. After hesitating, she held back her headache and used psychokinesis to investigate Carol's situation. Chapter 164. Tang Feng is watching the battle. Okay, as expected of Carol, she was about to die. She insisted on not using the double star state. In the end, she actually thought of a way to resist Magneto's ultimate move. In the distance above the mutant army, before Qin and the others knew what happened to Carol, Tang Feng knew in advance that Carol was still alive through God's perspective, and he also knew how to deal with her escape from death. Since Magneto condenses and manifests the invisible magnetic field, the invisible magnetic field has a powerful energy property. So although it will enhance the lethality of the magnetic field, on the other hand, it also gives Carol a chance to absorb the energy of the magnetic field. Therefore, Carol absorbed the energy of the magnetic field and used the energy of the magnetic field to resist the attack of the magnetic field. However, because she was bound by Qin's psychokinesis before, she wasted time when she broke free from the spatial distortion. When she finally came out, Magneto's ultimate move was just around the corner, and there was not much time for her to absorb the magnetic field energy. Under such circumstances, she could only absorb the magnetic field energy as much as possible while resisting the ultimate move, and with the support, it finally allowed her to withstand the full power of the ultimate move. As a result, she also went to half-life. If it weren't for the magnetic field energy that her body had just absorbed, she might have completely lost her fighting power. Oh, the two of them have finally arrived. Although I don't know why they were late, the members of the Avengers have also gathered. The tribal warriors of Wakanda, led by the Old King, have rushed to the battlefield. Just in time, my army has also gathered. This war should also reach its climax, and the real military training plan will officially begin. Tang Feng raised his eyebrows, looked towards the horizon, then looked in the direction of Wakanda, and finally lowered his head to look at the mutant army that had emerged from the portal and gathered, and muttered to himself, "The coming war is destined to be more intense, and the scene will be even more tragic. As long as you are on the battlefield, in order to survive, no one will show mercy, many people will die." Tang Feng sighed lightly and fell silent. No matter who died, he chose not to fight, anyway. Thinking about it, he looked at the right hand that had been holding an empty grip. There was an invisible power in the palm of his hand, which vaguely condensed into a spherical shape. During the rotation, some images appeared from time to time, all of which were images of some people when they died. This side of the battlefield. Be careful, she's not dead yet. Kin endured a slight headache, used psychokinesis to detect Carol's existence, sensed the fact that she was not dead, and quickly recalled in surprise, "Impossible, how could she just use the 4th level power to block my ultimate move?" Magneto looked incredulous. This way she didn't die, and she didn't use that double star state. It was really amazing. The Black Queen couldn't help but admire. While speaking, she saw Carol's figure covered in blood, staggering up from the bottom of the pit, step by step. Even if she didn't die, she was seriously injured. "If we attack together again, we can definitely kill her." Magneto saw Carol's figure and had to believe it. He controlled a piece of metal and flew towards Carol. He carefully tested her state first to see if it was true. He couldn't help but be cautious. Her current state is not very good. She used her ultimate move with all her strength, and the consumed power did not recover so quickly. The same is true for Kin and the Black Queen. Whether it is psychokinesis or magic power, they all consume a lot. Carol only felt that everything she saw was blurred, and there was a red curtain of blood. She gritted her teeth and shook her head violently, trying to wake herself up a little, wiping the blood from her face with her hands. Then, I saw a piece of metal flying in front of my eyes. She was about to dodge in a hurry, but she couldn't move her body. She already understood what was going on and turned her head to look at Kin. Jin used psychokinesis, which cooperated with Magneto's temptation, and fired. When Carol was struggling, trying to break free from the shackles of psychokinesis, but because of the serious injury, she was helpless for a while and did not break free so quickly. She was ready to be injured by the piece of metal. At the critical moment, the captain appeared in time, holding a shield in front of her. "Are you okay?" The captain did not look back, looked at Magneto and the other three intently, and asked with concern. Because the movement of Magneto's ultimate move was too great earlier, everyone in She temporarily stopped fighting, allowing him to take the opportunity to retreat and support Carol. Cough cough, "I can't die for the time being," Carol said in a weak tone with a wry smile. When the two were talking, Magneto moved impatiently, using magnetic field control to control the captain's shield and make it fly. $0 middle dot 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 $. The captain quickly responded and noticed that the shield was moving abnormally. He immediately opened the shield that had already been installed on the shield, and a circle of light film covered the shield and blocked Magneto's ability. Before the arrival, considering the ability to confront Magneto, the captain must have prepared a shield that can shield magnetic field control. Not only him, but every member of the Avengers will carry a shield that shields the magnetic field, as well as an instrument that shields the power of the mind. Damn, it's this kind of shield again. Magneto frantically controlled more than a dozen pieces of metal, forming a sharp blade and stabbing at the captain. The captain took a deep breath, calmly raised his shield, and blocked all the metal blades. Even if you are the captain, you are not qualified to intervene in the battle between us. Since you're here, please die. A flirtatious laugh came out. The Black Queen approached the captain at some point, and when she stomped her feet hard, two large stone hands stretched out from the ground, grabbing the captain's 2 feet. Then, the Black Queen reached out a hand and touched the captain's face. As long as she touched it, she would absorb the captain's vitality and cause the captain to age to death. "No, come back after dark." Kin snorted and hurriedly recalled and shouted. The Dark Queen's heart tightened, and from the corner of her eye, she noticed that Carol had been punched, and she quickly put her hands in front of her and she backed away. Carol pushed the Black back with a punch, and then kicked the captain under the captain, kicking the big stone hand away, and immediately grabbed the captain with one hand and left the place. Shhhhhhhh. In the next second, dozens of sharp metal blades stabbed out and sank deep into the ground. Go away. I don't need your intervention in my battle, and the battle over there needs your help even more. Carol led the captain to avoid Magneto's attack, pointed to the other side of the battlefield where they were torn apart again, and hurriedly said, "I see." The captain nodded vigorously, knowing that standing by his side would only be a hindrance and had no effect, so he was about to leave. "Come on, then you don't have to go. I'll just kill you too." Magneto's killing intent surged, regardless of the consumption of strength. Panting heavily, gritted his teeth, and controlled a large amount of metal to fly into the sky again, forming a sharp blade, aiming at Carol and the captain, and all swords are fired. Chapter 165. Tony and Hulk are here, the sharp metal blades flying all over the sky, like a scene of 10,000 swords, aimed at the two figures below and stabbed at them. Carol wanted to fight back or escape with the captain, but she couldn't do so. Jean's psychokinesis was too entangled and was temporarily restrained. There was also the Black Queen, who also cooperated and controlled the ground to bulge, forming a 10-meter-high wall circle, surrounding the two of them. Even if Carol breaks free from psychokinesis in a hurry, the walls can restrain her for a while. Suddenly, 5 miniature missiles were launched, automatically meeting the metal blades, and then exploding. Roar! Immediately afterwards, a loud roar was heard, and a green figure fell from the sky. The wall was knocked down in 3 or 2 hits and protected in front of the two of them. In the sky, the golden and red steel battlesuit also slowly landed, standing in front of Carol. Iron Man, Tony and Hulk, the Hulk 943, they finally arrived and came to the rescue in time. Don't get me wrong. The reason I came to help is not because I agree with your actions, but because I can't accept the fact that you have been hanged and beaten all the time. After all, I am also a member of the Avengers, and I would be very embarrassed to be hanged and beaten, so I can't help it. As the Commander-in-Chief, Iron Man, I have to come to save you. Tony opened his mask, turned his head to look at Carol and the captain, and started talking nonsense. "If you can come to the rescue, let me say first, thank you. However, it doesn't seem that we have decided who will be the Commander-in-Chief. Please don't decide on your own," Carol said with a serious smile. She was very happy that Tony and Dr. Banner finally decided to come, proving that she was not wrong. Even if the ideas were different, they would quarrel from time to time. Once teammates need help, they can still put aside their prejudices and fight the enemy together. "I knew you wouldn't agree to nod so easily. It doesn't matter, one day, I will make everyone nod in approval. I, Iron Man Tony, am the most suitable candidate for Commander-in-Chief." 99 Tony shrugged and said confidently, "I look forward to that day." The captain did not firmly deny Tony's words this time and said with a smile, he was not interested in power, and if Tony was really qualified to be the Commander-in-Chief and could convince everyone, he would be willing to follow orders. "Hello, hello, hello." When the three of them were talking, Hulk roared in anger and felt the ground shake. On this side, Magneto, Ken, and the Black Queen also noticed something, so they were in no hurry to shoot for the time being. Bad news, everyone. Wakanda's tribal warriors have arrived on the battlefield. Good news, everyone. Our army has also arrived. It was then that Charles communicated what he said to all the mutants on the battlefield through telepathic dialogue. When the mutants heard Charles' words, they were first shocked, then overjoyed. After a while, as the earth trembled more and more violently, in the distance on both sides, their respective armies maintained their formation and rushed over quickly. "Our army is finally here." All the mutants and the remaining warriors of Wakanda thought of this sentence subconsciously, temporarily stopped fighting, stepped back from each side, and turned their heads to look back. As the two armies approached, Magneto and the others, the captain and the others, also retreated to the front of the army for a while to join everyone. As the two sides faced each other, the sound of daring and killing stopped, and the scene fell silent, filled with a very solemn atmosphere, like the calm before the storm. which made people suffocate. Tang Feng was suspended in the sky, overlooking the entire battlefield, analyzing the war forces between the enemy and the enemy. There are 100,000 recruits on our side. Coupled with the Golden Steel Wolves, they are all 3-level mutants, and each of them can defeat at least 100. In addition, there are also 4-level mutants, with 4-level combat power. Any one of them has the power to change the situation of the war. However, the professor has been injured by Carol, and he has no 4th-level power for the time being. He can only use the spiritual connection to carry out the general command. Magneto, Ken, and Black Queen, although they still maintain 4th-level power, but because of dealing with Carol before, they consumed a lot of power and can no longer use their ultimate moves arbitrarily. 35 The 3 of them only have about 60 to 70% of their strength left. And then there's the Wakanda side, with around 20,000 Horde fighters, a bit more than I expected. And then there are the fighters who can stand up to a 3rd-level mutant. T'Challa in the Black Panther battlesuit and the Old King. They count as 2. One is the captain of the Royal Guard, named Ako, and she is a woman, the same woman as named Najaya, and as T'Challa's ex-girlfriend, her fighting ability is also good. 35 There is also a defense commander named Wakabi Zero. Hey, there are 2 or 3 warriors in the tribe who don't know each other, and their magnetic field aura is not weak, and they have a bit of strength. 99 inches plus Hawkeye, Black Widow, Captain, Tony. That means there are 12 3rd-level combat powers, which is not too small. Finally, Carol and Hulk, both level 4. Fortunately, Carol has been seriously injured and the lost energy has not been recovered. Jin, Queen of Darkness and Magneto, anyone can fight her alone. 35 The most troublesome thing is Hulk. If he can't defeat him at once, as his rage increases, he will become stronger and stronger. I hope that Jean and the others have a way to deal with Hulk. Tang Feng muttered to himself and said expectantly, the most intense and exciting war curtain has begun. As soon as he finished speaking, the battlefield below had already changed. Attack, attack. At this point, there is nothing to say, and there is no idea of a suitable agreement. After a silent confrontation for a while, the old king of Wakanda waved his hand forward and issued an order to attack. Charles also connected through his mind at the same time and gave an order to attack. Blink, you are in charge of moving people quickly. Take Wolverine, Sabretooth, Juggernaut, Deadpool first, and send them to the center of the Wakandan army. Then take Black Queen, White Queen 4.7, Wanda, Iceman, Poppy, Burning Man, John, Riptide, Stormwind, Sandman, Magma and them, to the rear of the Wakandan army. Quicksilver, Blue Devil, taking advantage of the chaos on the battlefield, infiltrated the capital of Wakanda to find this woman and try to kill her. If there is a chance, also destroy the device protecting my spiritual ability. Eric, deal with Carol, Jin, and deal with Hulk. 1st Brigade, attack directly. 2nd, 3rd, 5th Brigade, follow. 6th and 7th Brigade, flank to the left. 8th, 9th Brigade, flank to the left. Correct. Team 10, wait for orders at the rear for the time being. A brigade is 10,000 recruits, a unit is 1,000, a small unit is 100, and a general unit is 100,000. This simple preparation was temporarily divided by Tang Feng. Chapter 166 Both lose. Charles stood at the back, ordering everyone remotely. In the face of the cruel war, even with his kindness, he couldn't soften his heart. For the first time, he hardened his heart, and with a firm killing intent, he gave orders one by one, and also teleported Suru's appearance to Quicksilver and Blue Devil. Although there is an instrument to protect their spiritual power, at the beginning of the battle, everyone is busy concentrating on tearing and killing the battle, and they are not sure to save their lives, let alone protect the spiritual power of the instrument. Therefore, many Wakandan fighters in the previous battle either accidentally damaged the spiritual power protection device, or were destroyed by mutant, and Charles took the opportunity to invade their brains and learned of Suru's existence. There is no doubt that Suru is very important, and it is precisely because of the black technology she hastily created, the abilities of Charles and Magneto, that she was deliberately targeted. If you kill Shuru and destroy the device protecting the mental ability that covers the entire capital, the mental ability taught by Charles can be unleashed. Although he was injured by Carol before, so he left the arena early, but it is not that he has lost his strength to fight back, but that his strength was greatly damaged and he was not qualified to participate in the battle between them. If there is a real possibility of one-hit death, even if Charles is desperately trying to hit his brain again, he can launch an all-out attack, try to make the number of sacrifices as few as possible, and win the war. Colossus, Linger, and Naughty, you three stay and protect me. Scott, Oralo, and Hank, Beast, go and help. After Charles finished giving the order, he instructed Linger and the others beside him, you don't have to worry about me, just have Linger 3 to protect me. Even if you can't stop the enemy from attacking, I can call Blink back to support us and lead us away. 99 So, I don't need so many people to protect me here, and on the battlefield over there, I need your strength even more. Charles saw Linger and the others with hesitant expressions on their faces. He said with a serious face, and no doubt, Linger and the others were hesitant, knowing that what Charles said was right. With Scott and Oralo's strength, they would play a great role on the battlefield. In this way, Scott, Oralo, and Beast Hank nodded solemnly and rushed to the battlefield. Captain Marvel Carol, pick me up again. On the fierce battlefield, the battle between Magneto and Carol quickly reached a fever at the start. After all, they have fought before and know the final outcome of their respective situations, so there is no need for any temptation. Magneto was suspended in the air, and countless metals surrounded him. The scene was astonishing. With a wave of his hand, thousands of metal sheets flew out, like a river of metal sheets. Carol was also flying in the air, spinning around Magneto, constantly accelerating her flight, dodging the metal sheets that kept stabbing at her. HMPH, with your current flying speed, it is impossible to completely avoid my attack. Magneto snorted coldly and opened his hands in a virtual hug. Then, the flying metal suddenly accelerated the flight speed or blocked Carol from the front, back, left, top, right, or bottom, and there was metal in all directions. The group surrounded her. Then Magneto gradually returned, and countless metals seemed to respond to his movements, surrounding Carol's circle, becoming smaller and smaller. Gradually, a large iron ball filled with condensed metal appeared in the sky, and Carol was trapped inside. Boom! In just a few seconds, the trapped Carol exploded with energy, arrogantly smashed the large iron ball, and rushed out of it. Whoosh! Whoosh! Because the big iron ball was torn open, a lot of metal fragments splashed everywhere. Under Carol's deliberate control, there were hundreds of metal fragments, blessing her with energy, piercing the air and attacking Magneto. Magneto's pupils shrank, and at the same time as he quickly retreated, he moved forward with both hands, strengthening the control of the magnetic field, and finally stopped the metal fragments stabbed in front of his eyes. Carol took this opportunity to fly to Magneto's side, and the remaining energy was concentrated on her right fist. Ignoring the continuously bleeding wound, she tried her best to punch it. Block me! Magneto widened his eyes, gritted his teeth, and quickly blew the surrounding metal controls back, forming a shield in front of him. Bang! Click! Click! In front of Carol's fist, even the metal shield seemed to be made of wooden planks. It first cracked, and then shattered on the spot. A blood-stained fist struck Magneto's face without hesitation. Horrified, Magneto recalled the iron helmet he had been wearing on his head, and controlled the helmet to form a small shield against his face. Then, his eyes became fierce, and the fragments of the shield that had just been broken, under his control, stabbed at Carol who was nearby. Boom! Tear, sizzled. In the end, it was a lose-lose result. Magneto's right face was covered in blood. Several old teeth were knocked out, and his brain felt dizzy, almost losing consciousness. With his fragile body of old bones, even under the protection of two shields, the strength of Carol's fist was reduced, and the remaining strength was enough to kill him half his life. Carol was not feeling well either. She tried her best to punch. She had exhausted the remaining energy. She had no energy to protect her body. and her body was riddled with holes and could not defend against the damage of the metal fragments. 943 I saw that her body was covered with metal fragments. She smiled desolately at the sky, closed her eyes and let her body fall freely. The battlefield was getting more and more fierce. Everyone's eyes were red, only the opponent in front of them had eyes, and there was no time to pay attention to the situation of others. None of them knew about the tragic situation of Magneto and Carol, and only a few of them had time to notice it, such as Jean, Tony, the Queen of Darkness, but they couldn't escape to rescue. They all had something to do. Charles was monitoring the audience and noticed it the first time. His heart contracted, and he immediately called Blink to rescue Magneto. Kill. A Wakandan warrior with red eyes stabbed the mutant in front of him with a vibranium spear, wiped the blood from his face, looked up, and was about to find another mutant. He blinked, only to see Magneto barely keeping his consciousness awake, controlling the metal to safely fall not far away, and without thinking, he ran over with a gloomy expression on his face. Because of the battle between Magneto and Carol, the destructive power was too great, so when fighting in the sky, he would subconsciously move to the periphery of the battlefield while fighting. This Wakandan warrior was also in the process of tearing and killing, and unknowingly came to the periphery of the battlefield. This is a good opportunity. Magneto is seriously injured and left alone, and now he is the only one closest to Magneto. Chapter 167 Some people start to sacrifice themselves. Magneto lay on the ground, stunned and in a semi-conscious state, a shadow looming over him without him noticing. The Wakandan warrior, with his back to the sun, grabbed his spear in both hands, pointed it at Magneto's head, screamed, and stabbed it hard. Stab. The same vibranium spear pierced the Wakandan warrior's heart, leaving him dying. The spear in his hand could no longer pierce, and he fell to the ground. Roar. Finally hit. Blink did not take back the vibranium spear he had temporarily picked up, and rushed towards Magneto. Wake up! Wake up! Blink roared, screaming for a while, but there was no response when he saw Magneto, and immediately decided to say, Magneto has fallen into a coma and can no longer fight. I'm going to send him away. Okay, please. Charles's words echoed in Flicker's head. Blink nodded, helped Magneto up, opened the space passage, and entered Atlantis, a temporary military hospital. Lisa, hurry up and help Magneto heal. Blink had just walked out of space. Lisa, what happened to Magneto? Magneto's safety is undoubtedly very important, and all the people present, whether they are medical soldiers or wounded, have gathered here with concern. The person who asked the question was Shadow Cat in a doctor's costume. Because she was too young and a child, even if her potential was comparable to Burning Man, Tang Feng stood strong and stayed with Lisa. And yet, Lantis, as a doctor, don't worry, Senior Sister Blink handed him over in time. With my healing ability, I'm out of danger and will recover soon, as Lisa explained. She used the holy light to heal the wounds on Magneto's face. Everyone could see that the bloody side of Magneto's face gradually improved. Okay, then I'll go first. Blinking breathed a sigh of relief, opened the space channel and left. Sister Blink is very busy. She keeps opening the space channel and bringing the wounded here. I don't know if she can handle it. She must be very tired. Shadow Cat looked at the place where Blink disappeared and said worriedly, this is also impossible. War is like this. In order to win, everyone is doing their best to do their own thing. Mystique, half of whose body was wearing a medical bandage, walked over, looked at the unconscious Magneto and sighed. Okay, Lisa, stop the skill. The wound on Magneto's face is half healed, and the rest of the wound can be slowly healed. Don't force the use of the skill, you won't be able to bear it. Shadow Cat noticed Lisa's pale face on the side, and quickly stretched out a hand, pressed her hands, prevented her from using the skill, and coaxed. Lisa was in a trance. She was talking, her head was dizzy, she couldn't sit still, but fortunately, Shadow Cat held her up in time. Enough, you have done a good job, go and rest for a while. It won't be long before Blink brings the wounded back again, and there may be some seriously injured people dying who need your skill to heal. Therefore, you must maintain a certain amount of strength at all times, and you cannot consume too much at a time. Mystique persuaded seriously. Lisa nodded lightly and reluctantly stopped using the skill. With Shadow Cat's support, she went to rest first. After Lisa left, the people present also dispersed, and the rest of the therapists were busy treating the wounded again. Mystique did not leave, just sat beside Magneto, staring at him, not knowing what he was thinking. Wakanda battlefield. Captain, Black Widow, Hawkeye, Iron Man Tony, the future Black Panther T'Challa, all gather together and fight each other, taking down and killing mutants one by one. Because of Charles' orders, most of the third-level mutants either go deep into the enemy's heartland or attack the rear. In this way, there are not many third-level mutants on the frontal battlefield, and they are also scattered. It is difficult for 2 or 3 to compete with the team leader and the others, so the leader and the others can only be so presumptuous. However, relative to the overall battle situation, the role of the captain and the others was very small, and the mutant who was defeated was not worth mentioning at all, and could not shake the entire battle situation. Break it, break it, break it. At this moment, Black Widow and the Reborn Man fought together, and they saw Black Widow wielding 2 small long swords, constantly cutting at the Reborn Man's arm. Vertical bar. Come on, keep cutting. The Regenerator relied on the ability to regenerate at a super fast speed with his arms, and was not afraid of Black Widow's attack and kept clamoring for him. Black Widow temporarily stopped her hand, took a few steps back, and made a small habitual movement. She tilted her head and glanced at him sideways, then kicked him, and immediately made a sound like breaking eggs. The Reborn Man was unprepared and fell to the ground clutching himself in pain. A silver light flashed, and the Regenerator's head flew out. The Black Widow took back the slender sword and said to himself, "Now, let's see how you can regenerate too quickly. Natasha Romanoff, be careful." As the captain's warning shout came, the Black Widow's face froze, and just as she was alert, a bone spur pierced her left shoulder. "If you kill the reborn person, then I will kill you and accompany you with your life." The Bone Spur Man retracted the bone spur, tasted the blood on the bone spur, and said fiercely, "Come if you can." The Black Widow was not afraid, grabbed the cloth and bandaged the wound on her shoulder without showing weakness. The man with bone spurs smiled, and sharp bone spurs appeared all over his body, rushing towards the Black Widow. The Black Widow looked at him coldly, holding a weapon to confront him. When the 2 of them fought together, each of the captains also had opponents. Beast, who had just arrived at the battlefield, encountered the captain, with Oralo entangled in Iron Man. Scott shot T'Challa with a laser beam and then attacked Hawkeye. Hawkeye took precautions and escaped dangerously. The 3 Scots who arrived in a hurry, plus the man with bone spurs, fought with the captain and others. On the other hand, Jin and Hulk's fight has also changed. Chapter 168. Tony's Panic. Hulk, Hulk, Hulk. He roared incessantly in the sky, walking angrily, sometimes leaping into the sky, rushing towards Kin and trying to attack. Faced with this situation, Kin flexibly dodged, and then psychokinesis pressed down on Hulk, making him fall to the ground faster and more violently. Therefore, on the ground where the 2 were fighting, there was already a deep hole shaped like a person, which was crushed by Hulk. Hulk crawled out of a deep pit again, spit out a mouthful of soil, spit out breath from his nose, and stared fiercely at Kin flying in the air. It was so irritating that it drove him crazy. Kin is the one who bullied Hulk without the ability to fly. After the battle with him, he always flew high in the sky and used psychokinesis to restrain him. This is not the way to go. Jean looked at Hulk below, frowning and thinking. The situation was a bit tricky, and although she wanted to get rid of Hulk quickly, she could spare her hands to support others. However, Hulk was too rough and meaty, allowing her to use psychokinesis to crash into the ground from a high altitude, and she was never stunned. In fact, she was stunned. Jin never thought of killing Hulk, and being able to stun Hulk was already a good result of the battle. She had always thought about it and did it. But unfortunately Hulk's head was too tough and his reaction was fast enough to not let her succeed. With just a thought, Hulk jumped back from below. Jin used psychokinesis to quickly move back to her original position, and calmly watched Hulk quickly pass by her previous position. U-950 was exhausted and continued to ascend to the sky. Then, she did not wait for Hulk to reach the highest point. She used psychokinesis. In order to put pressure on his body, she fell fiercely to the ground. Under her adjustment with psychokinesis, Hulk had nowhere to focus in the air, and couldn't control his body with his hands and feet. Hulk roared loudly, and it was this kind of routine again. He was not afraid. He struggled with his arms, and under the shackles of psychokinesis, he simply raised his hands above his head. When he touches the ground, it is the hands that touch the ground first. With this buffer, even if the head is still dizzy, at least he will not faint. Once again, to no avail. Jean sighed in disappointment. She had tried her best. When she fought Carol before, she had consumed a lot of strength, so she didn't have enough strength to completely restrain Hulk now. If it weren't for flight's advantage, Kin, who was only at level 4, would not be Hulk's opponent. It would definitely be a punch to Hulk. If this delay continues, her power will be consumed more and more, until she has no power to maintain flight. And Hulk, the beast, not only does not consume any physical strength, but instead becomes stronger and stronger with the accumulated anger. Kin is weakening, but Hulk is getting stronger. If things go on like this, even if there is the advantage of flying, it is not absolutely safe. Just give Hulk a chance and slap her, and the result will be tragic. If you want to defeat Hulk head-on, unless the piano explodes, fully integrates the consciousness of Dark Phoenix, and truly possesses the power of the 5th level. It was somewhat uncertain. She hadn't thought about it. That's the only way to do it. Kin thought about it, looking at the battlefield below. Her eyes were certain. She had already made up her mind. Even without me and Magneto, we would have won, she said to herself. Magneto and Carol lost both ways, although she was too busy entangling Hulk and couldn't help. But she also noticed it in the sky. It was also learned from Charles that Magneto had been sent back to Atlantis to be treated by Lisa. Although she lost Magneto's fighting power, Carol also lost her fighting power, and she didn't know whether she was alive or dead, and she didn't know whether she fainted in that corner of the battlefield. Although Charles knew where Carol was unconscious, he had no intention of killing her. Although before the war, Tang Feng said that life and death should be certain. However, considering that the Zerg annihilation that will come requires Carol's power, he has no intention of killing her. In any case, Magneto and Carol were unconscious, and both sides lost a 4th level combat power. Next, what Jean has to do is similar to the result of Magneto's lose-lose, luring Hulk, so that she and Hulk are also lose-lose for the battlefield. Just like playing a game of Go, there are a total of 5 4th level combat powers. Charles's state is not good, and Keen will not consider it for the time being. She negotiated with Hulk, Magneto, and Carol, and only Black Queen was left. In this way, only the Black Queen is left, a 4th level combat power, who can do whatever she wants, and no one can compete. On the horizon, Kin's figure gradually flew away, and Hulk kept jumping behind him, chasing after him. He, who had been completely irritated by Kin, ignored everything and only saw Kin's hateful figure. The departure of Jin and Hulk, some people heard. Alright, Jin took Hulk away, and the Wakanda side lost their 4th level combat power. After nightfall, Wakanda's Operation Thunder is about to begin. You can do it with your hands and feet. Charles nodded slightly, agreed with Kin's decision, connected with the Black Queen's heart, and said decisively, "Okay, I see." 35 At the rear of the Wakandan army, the Black Queen stood at the center of a group of fighters whose bodies were gradually withering, wantonly absorbing their remaining vitality, constantly restoring magic power, almost back to their peak state. In front of her, the elite mutants brought in, and the Wakandan warriors slashed together like a sharp knife, killing 7 inside and 7 outside, completely ruining the formation of the Wakandan army. The Black Queen slowly walked forward, long and straight black hair, fluttering without wind. Magic power was condensing. Using a kind of invisible magic, the figure was quietly disappearing. Fortunately, there is a professor who is monitoring the field of battle, otherwise he will suffer a great loss. The words before the Dark Queen disappeared and then walked away. The situation is a bit bad. Hulk, this brainless idiot, has been taken away. Tony agilely flew up and down in the sky, dodging Oralo's storm attack, or the lightning, with the characteristics of the steel battlesuit. Even if 1 or 2 lightning bolts are not avoided, do not panic, just charge up his battlesuit. Jarvis, find out what happened to the Black Queen. 35 Tony thought that Hulk and Kin were gone, and he was very worried about the Black Queen's 4th level combat power. Unfortunately, I couldn't find her. After a while, when Tony heard Jarvis's report, his face froze. It was very strange, not to mention Charles, who had been diving. The Black Queen was already on the battlefield, the only remaining level 4 combat power. It stands to reason that now is the time for her to show her talents. But he didn't do it immediately, but hid it. "Sir, there is a message from Wakanda." Tony accepted it suspiciously, opened it and widened his eyes in surprise, then woke up and understood what the Dark Queen wanted to do. "Quickly, warn the Wakandan side and tell them to stop first." 39 Tony yelled anxiously. Due to the urgency of the situation, he was finally distracted, forgetting about the existence of Oralo, and was swept away by a tornado, followed by a dozen lightning bolts. Chapter 169. Some people die one after another. The tornado was raging, the black clouds in the sky crowned the peak, and lightning was constantly falling. Under the blow of the power of nature, Iron Man Tony's figure could not be seen for the time being, and his life and death were unknown. Oralo, stop quickly, just take Tony down, don't kill him if you can. Aurora was trying to gather more powerful storms and lightning, to defeat the reservoirs. Dogs, continue to beat Tony and try to kill him immediately. To her surprise, Charles suddenly used his heart to send a message to stop her. "Professor, why can't you kill?" Aurora's hands were raised high and she did not lower them. The storm and lightning in the sky froze, and she did not continue to attack. She asked reluctantly, "Don't kill him. We need Tony's wisdom to better deal with the Zerg annihilation crisis." Charles was a little tired and unreconciled. Tony, the captain and others, in this war, killed a lot of mutant compatriots, and even the reborn ones were killed. If it weren't for the overall situation, he would really not call to stop Oralo. After listening to the explanation, Oralo had a tangled expression on his face, with unwillingness and pain. Tony has killed his compatriots and is already an enemy. Obviously there is a chance to kill the enemy, but he can't kill it. This is so painful. You can kill. At this moment, Tang Feng's words were transmitted to every 3rd level mutant through the messenger. Let them enter the battle. They are subconsciously stunned, can't help but listen carefully. I've said it before, it's a war of life and death. Whether it's the Avengers, or you, or Wakanda, there's no one you can't kill. There's no need to worry about the crisis of annihilating the Zerg. If I dare to launch a war, I'll be sure to deal with it. So, you don't need to think about anything now, just let go and kill. Tang Feng's words ended, but what he said instantly affected the entire battlefield. Beast, who was fighting with the captain, let out a loud roar, grabbed the vibranium longsword he collected everywhere, no longer held his hand, and aimed it at the captain's vitals. The man with bone spur had already made a nasty attack. With a grim smile, completely ignoring his own injury, he used the wound-for-wound method to entangle Black Widow. Scott silently put his hand on his glasses, flipped the switch, maximized the energy value, and shot at Hawkeye's body. Hawkeye smiled miserably, failing to dodge, and was instantly knocked down by 2 laser beams. Don't do it. Number 55. Hawkeye's death caused the captain and Black Widow to scream in pain, but unfortunately they couldn't get away to rescue. With red eyes and tears, a comrade died just like that. Ah! Ninth Kala roared and rushed towards Scott, but Scott reacted very quickly and immediately hit him with a laser beam on the side of his head. This time, even though the Black Panther battlesuit's defense ability was very strong, it did not completely cancel the impact of the laser beam, and in the process of flying back, he was already injured again. With the previous injuries and the current injuries, T'Challa fell to the ground with a thud. Everything he saw was blurry, and there was a double image, and he did not stand up for a long time. 2 feet appeared in front of his eyes. It was Scott. Without hesitation, the laser beam fiercely slammed into T'Challa, pressing down on the Black Panther battlesuit, squeezing his body into the ground until he died. "Professor, you heard it too. The king said he could kill 99." At this point, Oralo took a deep breath, gritted his teeth, and waved his hands down without hesitation. The storm and lightning in the sky seemed to be raging, and they gathered a huge amount of power, concentrated on the place where Tony was knocked down, and attacked hard. Charles sighed and cut off his spiritual connection. He couldn't disobey Tang Feng's words, so he had to choose to believe and support. "Did you die?" After sending out a big move, Oralo consumed a lot of strength, couldn't help but gasp, looked at the black hole in front of him, and said to himself, "Whisper. Chakakaka." Suddenly, he heard some strange sounds, listened carefully, and finally heard where they came from, looked at his feet in shock. Boom! Beside Oralo, the ground burst open, sending her flying immediately. A golden and red steel figure rushed out of the ground. It was Tony. I saw that the situation of the steel battlesuit was not very good. Some places were charred, some were damaged, and some wires were exposed. Tony had lingering fears. It was too exciting. Fortunately, he thought of a way to escape by burying himself in the ground. Oralo's attack stopped for a while, giving him time to escape, otherwise he would really die. Thinking about it, he stared at Oralo's staggering figure, released all the remaining miniature missiles, and then pressed it into the moonhook mouth of the arc reactor, condensing a lot of energy and shining. Oralo was startled, stood up from the ground, and sent out a storm of lightning, which was able to stop all the miniature missiles. But the power of the explosion blew her away again, and she wailed, suffering serious injuries. 4 flowers. Immediately afterwards, a single beam light cannon fired from the arc reactor pierced Oralo's abdomen on the spot. Oralo vomited blood in disbelief, his weak body lying on the battlefield. The various sounds he heard in his ears quickly disappeared, and the scene in front of him became increasingly dark. The appearance of Charles, Scott, Tang Feng and others flashed through his mind one by one, and then fell into a silent darkness. "Oralo, I'm sorry, I hurt you." In the distance, Charles closed his eyes in pain and remorse, and old tears rolled down. "Rest in peace." Tony walked up to Oralo, sighed, crouched down and stretched out his hand, closing his open eyes. At this moment, pieces of the steel battlesuit flew from the sky, and their air support arrived. Tony turned to leave, put on a new steel battlesuit as he walked. Before taking off, he glanced at Oralo one last time, with sadness, anger, bewilderment, and a lot of doubts in his eyes. He wanted to ask Tang Feng to start a war without authorization, before the crisis of annihilating the arrival of the Zerg. He said that he would train troops, and the result would be to let them kill each other. What's the purpose? What the hell is training troops? Go to hell. Tang Feng. While flying, Tony gritted his teeth and muttered. He saw dozens of vibranium fighter planes flying over from the direction of the Wakanda capital in the distance, and also noticed the dark figure waiting below. "It's over," Tony muttered to himself. No longer. The Black Queen raised her head, muttered to herself, and then shouted to the sky. All the magic power that had been restored burst out. Then, as if a nuclear bomb exploded, a magic shockwave spread from her body to the surroundings, including the sky above. The vibranium fighter plane flying from the direction of Wakanda's capital just entered the range of the magic power explosion. "Life sucks." The Black Queen pursed her lips and smiled. She hadn't used such a large-scale attack for a long time. She had a feeling of euphoria and vented all the suffocation she felt against Carol before. Dozens of vibranium fighter planes were still in flight, but as if no one was controlling them, they all rushed to the ground. Because the operators of the fighter planes have been drained of their vitality and turned into mummy spoons. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 170 Charles' Sneak Attack. How could my combat team end up like this? On the battlefield, The old king was under the protection of Wakanda's warriors. He stared blankly at the direction in which the fighter plane fell, unwilling to accept the cruel reality. This was his plan to make a comeback, and he found it difficult to bear until Magneto and Jean retreated from the battlefield, before he decided to start it, thinking that it would be a heavy blow to the mutant army. Each of his fighter planes is made of vibranium and is also equipped with powerful thermal weapons. As long as there are no fourth-level mutants to intercept the fighter planes, it can definitely help Wakanda win the war. Although the old king made a lot of calculations, he still underestimated the strength of the Black Queen. Although he knew that the Black Queen also had fourth-level combat power, he did not use a large area attack against Carol. The spatial distortion is very strong. However, each 950 attack can only destroy one fighter. Moreover, the fighter plane will also dodge, and it is impossible to use the power of spatial distortion more than 10 times in a row, so there is no need to be afraid. Moreover, after the Black Queen led a group of mutants to attack from the rear, they did not use any earth-shaking big moves, but simply stood there to absorb the life force of the warriors, a situation that was very consuming and was recovering strength. Therefore, the old king mistakenly believed that the Black Queen was not only the weakest at the 4th level, but also did not have any large-scale attacks. Moreover, the faster and more urgent the situation, if the Thunder Plan is not carried out, their army of 20,000 will be defeated by the mutant army of 100,000, and there will be no chance of comeback. Because of this, the old king could only gamble. In the end, the gamble was lost, a crushing defeat, and there was no hope of winning this war. Your last plan we failed and we won. Suddenly, such a sentence came out of his ear, causing the old king to startle and recover from his sluggishness. Then, a stinging sensation came from the Black Panther battlesuit, and a vibranium spear stabbed into him from the gap between the battlesuit's waist, deep into the organs, also made by vibranium, and it pierced through the gaps. Even the Black Panther battlesuit could not resist. The old king screamed and fell to the ground. He was dying without breath immediately. He turned his head and looked back in desperate struggle. He saw a soldier's hand beside him, and his eyes widened in disbelief. King 35, the defense commander, Wakabi, who had been following the old king, screamed in pain, and finally reacted from the shock, took out a spear and stabbed the body of the soldier who shot him. "Why are you doing this, warrior Vada?" "Because I am not him." The so-called Vada warrior, facing Wakabi's strong questioning, laughed softly before dying. "That's right." The old king noticed the Vada warrior's eyes, showing a sense of vicissitudes, perhaps wanting him to die, and vaguely saw Charles' appearance in those eyes. Why the Thunder Plan was known in advance, why the Black Queen simply intercepted the fighter plane's route, and why the Vada warriors attacked and killed him. All these doubts were resolved, and he was dead and understood. "No, no, King, King." Wakabi was lying beside the old king, crying bitterly in pain, and the soldiers around him also knelt on the ground and cried. Charles' assassination plan was successful, because of the device that shields the power of the mind. After the war, Charles has never been seen playing any role. Therefore, the Wakandan side subconsciously ignored Charles' existence. This is a fatal blind spot. Charles took advantage of this to find a warrior who inadvertently damaged the psychic protection instrument during the battle. It was Vada. He used psychic power to control it and lurked beside the old king. In this way, all the orders given by the old king were heard by Charles, and he definitely knew about Thunder's plan. "The king of Wakanda has killed me. Victory is ours. Everyone attack." As soon as Charles regained mental control of the dead Vada warriors, he immediately connected the minds of everyone. The mutants, announced the death of the king and brought the last 10,000 recruits to the field. Hearing Charles' words, all the mutants took heart and attacked the enemy in front of him while the king of Wakanda was dead. "The king is dead?" When the Wakandan warriors heard mutants shouting like this, they panicked and looked back anxiously, waiting for the king to stand up to refute the rumor. To their despair, the king's figure never stood up. This war was very difficult for Wakanda to resist. Not only did they have to face the 100,000 mutant recruits, but also the harassment of the 4 men including the Golden Steel Wolf in the center of their army, and the harassment of the Black Queen and others in the center of their army. Rear harassment. In this way, they can only support with force, but with a breath of suffocation. They persist. With the word of the king's death, the breath finally came out, and the Wakandan side began to defeat. This war, Wakanda is lost, we should retreat. The sacrifice is already great enough. Tony floated in the air, looking at the one-sided battlefield below, and said reluctantly. His words, through the team communicator, also reached the ears of the captain and Black Widow, and also reached the ears of Carol, who was in a coma. Retreat? The captain and Black Widow didn't think much about it. In fact, it wasn't a question of retreat, but how to save their lives. The man with bone spurs had sharp bone spurs all over his body, some of which were stained with blood, and he stared at Black Widow viciously. Black Widow was panting, her arms, waist, back. There were wounds all over her body, bleeding all over her body, and she already felt dizzy, which reminded her that she was bleeding too much. Boom. We shouldn't have killed like this. The captain smashed the beast with a punch and roared sadly. Yes, we shouldn't tear it apart, all because you chose to intervene in our war for the sake of justice in 4.7, all of which is caused by you. Beast spat out a mouthful of blood, stood up from the ground, and shouted as well. This is different, because you started the war without authorization, and the crisis of Zerg annihilation is about to come. Why are you still doing this? Do you have to be contentious if you have to fight internally and exhaust the stamina of humans? The captain took a deep breath and shouted in pain and rage, and his words spread far away. Haha. 2 laser beams were shot at the captain, and that was Scott's response. The captain quickly held up his shield to block the laser beam, and the strong impact pushed him back continuously. Captain, be careful. At this moment, Black Widow shouted at him in panic. The captain was startled, and from the corner of his eye, he noticed that Beast was attacked from behind him. Chapter 171. Die, die, die. In the sky. After Tony finished speaking, he also knew that the captain and the two were not easy to escape. They were about to rush back to the battlefield below and wanted to cover the retreat together. He, I caught you, Iron Man Tony. At this moment, the Black Queen's flirtatious smile came from his ear, making Tony startled. He turned his head and looked back, only to see that the Black Queen had cancelled the invisible magic and stepped on an iron plate, relying on telepathy, manipulate the magic and perform the path of flight. The Black Queen did not wait for Tony to react, put one hand on the steel battlesuit, used telekinesis, the magic attached to the past, and took control of the steel battlesuit in an instant. When you're done, let me try it, whether your vitality is good or not. The Black Queen smiled and said the words that scared the boy. She took off her mask, put a hand on Tony's face and activated the life suction. The Wakandan side has lost, we are going to retreat. Do you really want to kill them all? Tony felt the life force in his body draining. He suppressed his fear and said word by word. Retreat? Stop joking, killing so many of our compatriots in 09. How could it be possible for you to retreat and leave like this? Leave me alone. The Black Queen felt very amused and said coldly, is that so? I see. From the beginning, I must do my best to prevent the captain and the others from coming. I don't know what Tang Feng thinks, I just hope that he really has a way to solve the coming Zerg annihilation. Tony smiled dryly, and finally looked at the sun that was setting in the west with longing, and secretly gave an order. Jarvis, blow it up for me. The Black Queen's telekinesis can only control the steel battlesuit, but not intelligent life. Jarvis following Tony's words, he detonated the Ark's reactor. Farewell sir, it is my pleasure to serve you. Jarvis, I hope that after I die, you will follow a better knight than me. Tony reluctantly muttered to himself that in the Stark building, Jarvis retains a subsystem and is not afraid of being completely destroyed. But he is different. He is completely dead when he dies. I am Iron Man. Tony said the last sentence firmly and forcefully. Boom. The steel battlesuit self-detonated, comparable to a small nuclear bomb explosion, and the power in an instant not only shattered Tony, but also killed the Black Queen. Starting from the battlefield, the first level 4 combat power who died was dragged to death by Tony. For Tony, if he was going to die anyway, he would definitely drag the man who killed him to death. As for what to say for the sake of the overall situation, not to drag the black man to death, in the crisis of annihilating the Zerg, if he can add a 4th level combat power, there will always be a better chance of winning. All of this is nonsense. Knowing that there was a danger of annihilating the Zerg, Tang Feng still let them kill each other, so with Tony's small eyes, he would not think for Tang Feng's sake. Queen of Darkness. 95 Tang Feng always he had been suspended in the sky to watch the battle. Seeing that the Black Queen was killed, he was speechless. With the power of the Black Queen, if he was vigilant, Tony would not succeed. However, she, who had been living cautiously for centuries, lost her vigilance this time, thinking that Tony was dead and there would be no countermeasures. As a result, there was only one relaxation, and fortunately, it was the life of the Black Queen. Tony is dead, so is the captain and the Black Widow. Tang Feng squinted his eyes and lowered his head, looking in the direction of the captain. Yes, because he was holding a shield to block the laser beam, he couldn't help but retreat. The captain didn't respond in time, and was stabbed in the back by a pair of beast's sharp claws, penetrating his heart. Rogers. 99 The Black Widow screamed in pain and was a little distracted, but she also took the opportunity for the Bone Spur Man, walked over and hugged her. Thorn. As soon as the Bone Spur Man showed his vengeful expression, his face stagnated, and 2 small long swords pierced his heart. At the same time, the Black Widow was also pierced in the body by several sharp bones and fell into a state of death. With a strong will, the Black Widow gritted her teeth and pushed the dead Bone Spur Man away. Staggering towards the captain, Scott put one hand on his glasses and looked at the Black Widow, but did not attack. Beast silently retracted his claws, took a few steps back, and let the Black Widow come and pounce on the captain's side. All dead, the Black Widow smiled movingly, lying on the captain's seat. The captain vomited blood, looked at the Black Widow's profile, and asked with remorse, "No, this is our sincere decision, and no one will blame you. Before I came, I was prepared to die. Originally, I had nothing, and since I met you, I don't feel lonely." The Black Widow smiled and said less and less, "Nick Fury, Hill, Phil Coulson, Hawkeye, Captain, Tony, Dr. Banner, Carol." These people appeared before her eyes. They were all her comrades and family. She is no longer alone. Natasha Romanoff. Everyone. The captain muttered to himself, touched the Black Widow's face with his hand, and finally fell to the ground weakly. Somewhere on the battlefield, Carol, who was in a coma, let out tears from her tightly closed eyes. Damn it. Beast saw that the 2 of them were really dead, but he felt very upset. He screamed and knelt down, and kept beating the ground. "Scott, tell me, is the king's order right or wrong?" Beast asked in pain in a hoarse tone. Because of Tang Feng, Mutant can continue to survive, established Atlantis, and life is getting better and better. Everyone is grateful to Tang Feng 950 from the bottom of their hearts and respects him. No one doubts Tang Feng. The king is a king and obeys his orders from the bottom of his heart. Therefore, even if a war is launched against Wakanda, even if it is an enemy of the Avengers, it is enough to suppress the suspicion in my heart, obey Tang Feng's orders, and move forward. However, now Beast regrets it and has random guesses. Even if it is training, it should not be like this. Whether his side, Wakanda's side, or the Avengers intervene, the sacrifice is too great. I don't know. I know. Or Rollo is dead too. Scott kept shaking his head, shouting sadly, "Tang Feng, our king, what the hell do you think? Is this the result you want?" Charles monitored the situation and felt a lot of sadness, anger, and empathy from Mutant. Even if he wants to win, he is not happy at all. The sacrifice is too great. Sad for a moment, he looked towards the capital of Wakanda. The barrier that had been opened had disappeared, and he could no longer protect his spiritual power. In order to end the war as quickly as possible and minimize the sacrifices, he decided to take action. Chapter 172 Lost and Captured. Go back in time to the beginning of the war. The battle was fierce on this side of the battlefield, and it was not easy for the 2 of them to leave alone and sneak into the capital of Wakanda, the palace of Wakanda, because all the soldiers were called to go to the battlefield. There were not many people left behind. and there were only 50 or 60 soldiers guarding the entire palace. With the rest of the cooks and chores, there are more than 100 people in total. On the way to the palace, a team of 10 soldiers were patrolling everywhere, protecting it. Suddenly, time seemed to freeze. Quicksilver ran past them, maintained a relaxed smile, hid in a corner, and exited the state of extreme speed, and time seemed to return to its normal speed. This is because his speed is so fast that when he starts running, time seems to stop. In fact, time does not stop. It does not slow down. It is normal all the time. It is just slowed down for Quicksilver's senses. The patrolling soldiers walked away, not noticing that Quicksilver had just rushed past them. The front is where you are staying? The device that shields the power of the mind is also in the monitoring room. We are here. Blue Devil appeared beside Quicksilver with teleportation almost at the same time. He looked at the building in front and said nervously and uneasily, "Why are you afraid?" Quicksilver turned his head to look at Blue Devil. He chuckled, and didn't seem nervous at all. I'm not afraid, I'm just a little nervous." Blue Devil insisted on saving face, pretended to be unafraid, and said, "Don't lie to me, it's not the first day I've met you. Don't worry, as long as you send me, I'll be able to complete the task by myself. Maybe you don't need to act." Quicksilver took off. "I teleported through the obstacle. I had no idea what was going on inside, and I didn't try. Maybe I'll fail. Maybe I'll just teleport into the wall. Maybe." "Don't talk so much nonsense. Quickly take me inside." Blue Devil was talking about this with concern, when Quicksilver suddenly became angry, grabbed his collar with both hands, pushed him against the wall, looked at him with dark glasses, lowered his voice, and said mercilessly, "Nothing is possible, you have to succeed." 99 inches. What do you think the situation is now? Is it a home game? It's a war. Our compatriots, in order to win, are facing the Wakandan army, dying one by one over time. As we were talking, I don't know how many compatriots died. Do you know, among our familiar friends, who is still alive and who is dead? You don't know, and neither do I. It's useless to worry about this now. The most important thing is that as long as we complete the task, we will play a great role in the overall situation of the war. Maybe, on the battlefield outside, we are not far from victory. We just need to wait for us to complete the task." As Quicksilver spoke, he thought of Wanda and many people, and his face couldn't help but show anxiety and worry. Even if he knew that Wanda and the others were strong, it was a battle on the battlefield, with a total of about 120,000 people. Unless it was a fourth-level battle force, the individual's strength was very small and not enough to affect the entire battle situation. There is no absolute certainty about self-defense, because they want to infiltrate the capital of Wakanda and perform important tasks. Neither Quicksilver nor Blue Devil carry a communicator, which is to prevent Wakanda from tracking the signal and discovering both of them. Therefore, both of them have been aware of the situation on the battlefield outside. In this way, I can't help but worry. All kinds of grumpy thoughts are inevitable. Okay, we don't have time to delay. Let's get started. I think you can do it. Quicksilver let out a sigh of relief, calmed his emotions, patted the Blue Devil on the shoulder, and said encouragingly, "Okay, I can do it. I can do it." Blue Devil nodded vigorously, continued to encourage himself, looked at the closed door in front of him, grabbed Quicksilver with one hand, gritted his teeth, and the expression on his face was ugly as if his father and mother had died. Finally, he subconsciously closed his eyes and teleported away with Quicksilver. "We did it." The Blue Devil, who closed his eyes, heard Quicksilver's voice, and his heart suddenly skipped a beat. He couldn't care less about Roar's successful teleportation. To his surprise, the teleportation was not successfully launched, and an invisible fluctuation interfered in space. He was stunned for a moment, and was immediately defeated by the three warriors. The Quicksilver beside him was also subdued. He showed an awkward expression, similar to the feeling of dizziness. It turned out that Surui had already made preparations and was waiting for them to enter the urn and trap the turtle in the urn. The instrument invented by the princess is really powerful. 35 In the monitoring room, all the soldiers were praising Surui. Quicksilver, and Blue Devil. The bruised faces were separated and placed in two corners, one in the east and one in the west. The Blue Devil was in the west corner. His hands and feet were tied with iron chains, and the instrument that interfered with spatial fluctuations was always on, preventing him from using teleportation. Quicksilver is in the east corner. Only one pair of feet is firmly locked by the iron chain. The iron chain is only half a meter long. If it is not turned on, he cannot escape even if he wants to run. How did he know that we had sneaked in? Quicksilver involuntarily pulled the ankle chain with his hands and asked Suru. It's very simple. No matter how hidden you were in the process of infiltration, you have also avoided all the surveillance cameras on the bright side, but it is impossible to avoid the surveillance instrument I invented. It is a nanomachine, very small, with the naked eye. You can't see it at all. It is covered by all the royal officials. So, as soon as you infiltrated, I knew about it, and I also knew about your respective abilities, and quickly created instruments that could restrict your abilities. After Suru explained it, he ignored the two of them, turned around, looked at the monitor worriedly, and paid attention to the nature of the war outside. Princess, I have a question. Why don't you kill them? At this moment, a soldier looked at Quicksilver and the Blue Devil fiercely and asked inexplicably, you don't need to kill if you can catch it alive. They are alive, and after the war, they will be of great use. Without looking back, Suru explained in a low voice. Leaving aside the lives of the two people, if the war is fortunate, they can negotiate with Tang Feng. If you lose, you can negotiate with Tang Feng. Although Tang Feng and the Avengers had agreed that they would not take action, this is just his sign of the word. As long as he is still on the battlefield, with his overwhelming strength, he can do whatever he decides. Chapter 173 Slaughter and Counter-Slaughter. As long as Tang Feng stayed on the battlefield, Suru was always worried and felt that Wakanda had little chance of winning, leaving Quicksilver and Blue Devil's small lives behind, thinking about negotiating some conditions after the defeat. For example, T'Challa is unfortunately defeated and captured, so he can request a hostage exchange. Unexpectedly, T'Challa, who was wearing a Black Panther battlesuit, was pushed to the ground by the laser beam and gradually buried deep into the ground on the synchronous transmission screen on the monitor. After a while, the siren sounded. This is the sensor installed on the Black Panther battlesuit. If the owner wearing the battlesuit dies, there will be a warning. No, Brother Wong is dead? Impossible. No. Suru walked to the monitoring screen in a panic, put his hands on the monitoring station, and kept shouting heartbrokenly, the prince is dead. The rest of the fighters were also muttering sadly, unwilling to believe the cruel reality, and seemed to be deeply shocked. Quicksilver and Blue Devil looked at each other silently, made eye contact, did not act rashly, only had one chance, continued to wait. Anyway, they also saw the situation on the battlefield through the surveillance video. Although someone died 953 unfortunately, but throughout the entire battlefield, the mutant side was winning and the Wakanda side was losing. Seeing this, they were relieved. Suru's sadness had just begun. As time passed, the old king was also stabbed to death by a sneak attack. At this moment, Suru burst into tears, directly collapsed to the ground with his eyes rolled back. The soldiers around him were also heartbroken and screamed in pain. Through the surveillance video, the war situation at the scene is clear at a glance. The old king, T'Challa, the captain and others are all dead, and the Wakanda side is quickly defeated and there is no ability to resist. The so-called comeback plan of the old king also failed, and there is no doubt that on the battlefield, Wakanda's defeat was doomed. The only chance of a comeback lies with Suru. Suru's brain is too terrifying, and all kinds of black technologies can be easily developed. If you want to completely ensure victory and not give Wakanda a chance to make a comeback, you must first kill Suru. This is the idea of Quicksilver and the Blue Devils, and their mission. Taking advantage of Suru and the others falling into grief and forgetting them. For a while, the two began to counterattack. Blue Devil continued to inhale deeply, in order to cheer himself up. His mouth moved a few times. He spat out a disguised denture, accurately flew towards the open spatial instrument, and then exploded with a bang. blasting the spatial instrument into pieces. Not good. The sound of the explosion awakened Suruha and the others. They looked back and looked left and right. Quicksilver was still in the east corner, and in the west corner, Blue Devil had disappeared and there were only chains in its place. "Princess, be careful, he's behind you." 35 down. A soldier cried out in alarm, and at the same time, the vibranium gun in his hand shot out laser beams, hitting her from behind. Immediately afterwards, the rest of the warriors were carefully avoiding Suruha, trying to hit the Blue Devil's figure. The Blue Devil kept teleporting around Suruha, dodging the laser beams one after another and at the same time trying to kill Suruha, but they were all stopped by the incoming laser beams. Although the teleportation skill is very fast and easy to use, it is not invincible, especially for the Blue Devil. Every time he teleported, he would stop after appearing, because his reaction nerves were not that fast. Moreover, he can only teleport along the place he sees. If it is a blind spot, where he cannot see, he cannot teleport. Although when he invaded, he successfully teleported through the door, but this was a fluke, not proof that his skill has been improved. How was it, before and now? Therefore, these battle-hardened warriors can instantly lock onto the Blue Devil's figure and launch an attack the moment he teleports. Originally, the Blue Devil had given up on his plan to kill Suruha himself, but he really had no chance to do so. Unexpectedly, the figure that Suruha was dodging suddenly stopped. He did not dodge in time and blocked a few attack directions. Having the opportunity, the Blue Devil was overjoyed and without even thinking about it, he inserted a needle into the seam and teleported to Suruha's side. Using his body as a shield, he blocked the path of the soldier's blockade and then was about to shoot. Unexpectedly, an energy beam wave was faster than him, pierced through his moonhook mouth, opened a large hole, and blood flew out. The Blue Devil fell to the ground, his eyes widened, and he was unable to rest. Suruha breathed a sigh of relief and retracted the energy hand cannon. With her clever brain, she had long ago predicted the position of the Blue Devil's shot. The opportunity just now was also deliberately created by her. "Okay, already." Just as Suruha was halfway through speaking, out of the corner of her eye, she noticed that in the east corner, Quicksilver had disappeared without a trace, leaving only the chain and key in place. In an instant, she guessed what was going on. When the Blue Devil escaped, instead of attacking her for the first time, he stole the key from the side table, gave it to Quicksilver, and then attacked her again. Because the teleportation was too fast, Suruha and the others didn't notice it, and Quicksilver was also good at acting. He obviously had the key, but he didn't rush to unlock it. This is Quicksilver's cunning. If you just get the key and try to open the lock to escape, you will face the laser beam. Originally, the movement made by the Blue Devil's escape, coupled with teleporting to escape and giving him the key, took only a second or two, and the Wakandan warriors had already reacted. Although his speed is very fast, he still has a lot of time to escape. Fast, facing the speed of the laser beam, he has to crouch down and use the key to unlock, and then he has to speed up to escape. That's how everyone gave the Blue Devil attack to Suruha, attracting attention, ignoring Quicksilver, and took the opportunity to unlock and escape. As soon as Suruha thought of the reason, he only felt a flash of silver light, a pain in his neck, and the darkness of the sky, and his weak body fell to the ground. "Princess!" The soldiers screamed and were killed one by Quicksilver. In a second or two, everyone on the scene was killed by Quicksilver. He stalked beside the Blue Devil, tears flashed in his eyes, and he blamed himself. If he could have shot 1 or 2 seconds earlier, the Blue Devil would not have died. There is no if in reality. Blue Devil thought he could kill him, but he did not expect to be counterattacked. In this regard, Quicksilver felt sad and blamed himself for a while, then quickly packed up his mood, came to the monitoring station, and started the second mission: turn off the device that protects the power of the mind. Chapter 174. The war is over. Time returns to the present. Quicksilver and Blue Devil have already completed the task, but Blue Devil sacrificed himself. Charles felt more pain in his heart and sighed. He didn't want Mutant to die again, so he made a decision. He personally took action to end this war completely. On the battlefield, still fighting fiercely, Mutant side chased after the remnants of Wakanda. Because the fireman was so excited to chase and kill, he went deep into the defeated Wakandan army alone and didn't notice the energy consumption. He was only surprised when he went all out and could only send out a fireball the size of a basketball file. It was a pity that it was late, and a dozen soldiers rushed over, approached, and died. When Wanda, who was stalking from the rear, witnessed all this, she screamed in pain, and another comrade died. The sadness that had accumulated on the battlefield finally made her explode. In an instant, his chaos magic power lifted up all of the warriors within a 100-meter radius, and the earth rolled out mud strips and stone tentacles, crushing these warriors to death. You can stop. Right after the explosion, Wanda, who only felt a sense of emptiness in her body, listened in a daze to the words that Charles conveyed to her heart. She turned her head and looked around, and found that everyone had stopped tearing and killing. On the mutant side, obedience stopped. As for Wakanda, because their brains were impacted by spiritual power, they fell to the ground with their heads covered, screaming in pain and lost the power to fight back. It wasn't just those on the battlefield who were impacted by their hearts. They were gathered far away in the capital. There were about 70,000 civilians in total, except for the elderly and children, disabled adult women and men, or those who were not qualified to be soldiers. Cowardly and incompetent men, all suffered a mental shock at the same time, and fell to the ground crying. This was Wakanda's only resistance, and Charles was broken. After doing these things, Charles, who was already traumatized, paid a great price and fainted. Wolverine screamed. He was stabbed in the body by 5 vibranium spears, and then lifted up by the 5 warriors together. Depending on the situation, he was going to be dismembered. Although he has the integrated adamantium bone structure, the warrior with the vibranium spear can completely break his bones and dismember his body. He was ready to die, hissing, tears rolling down his cheeks as he recalled the sight of Sabretooth being dismembered. With Charles' help, he has regained many of his memories. Sabretooth and him, no matter what grudges happened, Sabretooth's tragic death in the war made him sad after all. After all, he was a true brother. To Wolverine's surprise, he did not die, and when he fell to the ground, he also heard Charles' words. He was gasping for breath, and the excitement of escaping death made him lie on the ground weakly, even temporarily forgetting the spear of vibranium trapped in his body. Did you win? Iceman Poppy protected more than a dozen injured mutants, exuding an icy breath. Half of her body was covered with white and red ice, and there was a fierce wound on her left face. Seeing the surrounding soldiers falling to the ground and crying, she finally relaxed and sat on the ground helplessly. It's finally over. I thought I was going to die. A heartless man. He didn't take action when he saw he was in danger. 35 White Queen scolded Tang Feng as she sat up to regain her strength. She saw that there were many wounds on his body. The most serious one was on his abdomen. It was almost pierced to death. Diamondization. The entire body will turn into diamonds, even the body, and there will be no blood flowing out. It must be said that vibranium weapons are the nemesis of all body transformers. No matter who they are all injured by vibranium weapons. Thank you for coming to the rescue just now. After cursing for a while, the White Queen thanked the torrent and storm beside her. The rapids and storm were busy saying no, and looked very embarrassed, covered in blood, as if they had crawled out of the dead man pile. Black Queen's sister died. Why did she die like this? Doesn't she have a 4th level combat power? It's too useless to die like this. Tang Feng, you cruel and heartless man, I hate you, I hate you. The White Queen suddenly covered her mouth and cried, very sad. The torrent and storm were silent, unable to hold back the tears of pain. The dead mutant, the sacrificed acquaintance, too much. Juggernaut was also dead, and the vibranium weapon could injure his body or kill him, in a disgusting manner, with spears or swords stuck all over his body. 0. Ask for flowers fake, he's not dead again. 35 A curse came from the pile of corpses, and as several corpses were pushed away, Deadpool walked out of it, and when he walked out with his upper body held by his hands, The original body that came down from the heart was gone. Instead, it was replaced by a baby-like lower body that looked ridiculous and strange. When Deadpool was cursing, he saw a corpse in front of him that was an acquaintance. He closed his mouth and turned his head sadly. Deadpool is a fast attacker. His attack speed is very fast, and he is also a master of double swords. He and Deadpool have tried many times, just to distinguish who is the master of double swords. I always lose in the competition. I haven't beaten you even once. Why did you die like this, fake shit? With a choked voice, Deadpool slapped the ground with both hands and kept cursing. At the end of the battlefield, there were corpses everywhere, and all kinds of weapons were stuck in the ground, thrown on the ground, or stuck in the corpses. Wakanda's warriors were rolling on their heads, screaming, and only about 3,000 or 4,000 of the 20,000 soldiers were left. On the mutant side, some people are happy to roar, some people are crying, or some people are anxiously looking for familiar people. When they find that the corpse is an acquaintance, they will kneel on the spot and cry. If the body they find is not the one they want to find, they will continue to rummage. The losses of mutants are also quite a lot, not counting injuries, disabled mutants. The dead mutants alone are nearly 8,000, and Wakanda's death ratio is 2 to 1. Although Tang Feng was disappointed with this death toll, he also expected it. The mutants are all recruits. Before joining the army, some were students, some were ordinary workers, some were otakus, some were housewives, some were successful people, and some were prodigal sons. There are all kinds of people, but after 3 months of selection and training, it is impossible to become an elite soldier. Although there are 100,000 people, Wakanda only has 20,000 people. However, if there is no 4th-tier combat power like Charles, nor a 3rd-tier combat power like White Queen and Wolverine, it will be difficult to win. Most likely defeated retreat Spoon. Chapter 175 Tang Feng is a bastard. Through this war, Tang Feng discovered several problems that the army needed to improve. These matters were decided after gathering the people and having a meeting to discuss them. In any case, his military training plan has come to a perfect end. It can be seen that each and every mutant recruit already has the temperament of a warrior. Seeing blood, killing people, experiencing brutal wars, witnessing the tragic death of comrades in arms, experiencing pain and experiencing death. His 100,000 recruits, from this day on, have had a major metamorphosis. They have become true warriors. Next, it is their turn to appear. Otherwise, I don't know how many people will be cursed and when. Tang Feng slowly landed towards a figure below. On a small hillside on the battlefield, there were also corpses scattered around. Carol had woken up from a coma. Her pale face, weak body, and pain made her kneel with her eyes wide open, godless, exuding the sadness of 953, the aura of deathly silence. All the voices she heard seemed to be far away from her, and the whole world seemed to have abandoned her. Feeling lonely and desolate, she was the only one left. The captain with a sense of justice, the Black Widow who yearns for her family and no longer wants to be alone, is concerned for justice, for her companions, and Hawkeye, who is willing to face death together, and has always been cruel and talkative, always against her Tony. Although we have only known each other for 2 or 3 months, our ideas are somewhat different and there are always fights. But we are all comrades in arms after all. We act together, face all difficulties together, and execute justice together. They were all dead. Hulk had forgotten about it, and only she survived. Carol was hit deeply and fell into a state of decay and guilt, and was unable to recover in a short time. At this moment, Tang Feng landed and stood behind Carol. TSK, is this Captain Marvel Carol, who has been in the universe for many years and saved countless planets? If I hadn't met you a long time ago, I would almost not have dared to recognize you when I saw your appearance. Tang Feng patted Carol on the head with one hand and laughed unceremoniously. Carol didn't respond to this at all. She just fell into her own world and ignored the outside world. It's just a big blow. It's so disappointing. Is this the so-called superhero? It's too easy to be beaten. If you rely on yourself to save the world, just wait for death. Tang Feng shook his head disappointedly. Seeing that Carol hadn't responded yet, he leaned over and said in her ear, "Since you're willing to be a waste and don't care about anything, then okay, I will kill Nick Fury now." Well, he killed the orange cat. After speaking, he pretended to leave. "No, no, don't." The words of Nick Fury and the orange cat finally stimulated Carol. She said to Tang Feng's back in a weak voice, "What did you say?" "It's too low for me to hear." Tang Feng turned around, touched his ear with his tail finger, and said with a shrug, "I said, stop hurting them. You've killed enough people, Captain Tony. They're all dead. Isn't it enough?" Carol lowered her head, unable to see his expression, her hands clenched tightly on the ground. She was questioning from a low voice to a loud voice. "No, it's not enough. It's not enough at all." 39 Tang Feng shook his fingers and continued to say words that would irritate Carol. "How are you going to stop hurting other people?" Carol still lowered her head and asked. "It's impossible to stop, unless I'm dead." The corners of Tang Feng's mouth raised and said, "Okay, then please die." Carol raised her head sharply and looked straight at Tang Feng. Her eyes seemed to breathe fire, pain, anger, despair, at all costs, etc. The extreme emotions made her explode. Even the weak and severely injured body was forced to explode. Disregarding the possibility of the body collapsing, using the double star state, venting and shouting, clenching her fists and punching Tang Feng. It can be seen that because of the strong energy gathered in the right fist, the already overwhelmed arm was slightly torn open, exposing the bones inside. Even if the arm is gone, it must be waved. At this moment, Carol has completely lost her previous decadence, but is stained with blood. Warrior, a superhero who wants to avenge her comrades in arms. Boo! Carol's fist struck Tang Feng, but Tang Feng's body was like foam, shattered and disappeared with a light touch. Because of the air, Carol staggered forward, her weak body making her unable to stabilize her balance, and fell to the ground. "You can't even see through such a simple phantom magic. How can you fight me in your current poor state?" Tang Feng shook his head, walked to the top of the hillside, looked at the entire battlefield, looked at the right hand that had been holding an empty hand. The center of the palm seemed to be a small world, and a figure flashed 0. "I know, but I have no choice but to take you down." Carol laboriously stood up and was about to continue attacking. "Okay, stop. If you don't want to see Tony and the others, then go ahead and shoot." 35 Tang Feng was talking, and seeing that Carol didn't listen, he still wanted to call out and show her the right hand that was being held emptily. It's the power of time. What are you going to do? Can you resurrect Tony?" 35 Carol felt a powerful force from Tang Feng's empty right hand. She could tell that it was the power of time. She was very familiar with it. Tang Feng used the power of time to stop her and slap her on the face. Let him hate the most, knowing that it was the power of time, and based on Tang Feng's words, he came to an incredible guess. "Yes, bring everyone back to life. Didn't I say that at the beginning? I was training." 35 Tang Feng said softly, looking at Carol and nodding confidently. Carol looked at Tang Feng in a daze. The double star state was cancelled, and she sat on the ground suddenly, crying and laughing. The feelings in her heart were complicated and indescribable. "Tang Feng, you are a bastard, big bastard." Tang Feng shrugged and let Carol scold her. 4.7 Kin, I know you heard my words too. Use your spiritual power to convey my words. Tang Feng raised his empty right hand and said to himself, "I see. Tang Feng, I also want to tell you something, you bastard." After having thrown away the Hulk, Keen returned to the war, stood beside the stunned Charles, and finished speaking with grievances. He used his spiritual power, and with Tang Feng's cooperation, he suppressed the calamity self-defense and succeeded. Connect with him and let him have a spiritual dialogue with everyone. Kin looked up at the sky. The scenery of the sunset was so beautiful. Linger, Naughty, and Colossus, who were standing at the side, looked at each other in confusion. When he was supposed to be sad, why did he smile instead, looking very happy? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.